time for our second series of the day. In fact, a culling of foxes here. They're cute, they're adorable, they're huggable. One of them is going to be put in a box and buried in your backyard. SuperAfim up against Tunison in a best of 5, and we have a live draft underway.
Yes, we do. We've seen the Uranus Ra bans here. I'm still not sure who's good to ban at this point. You know, like what do you do? Are you banning because you think your opponent is good with that civ, or are you banning because the civ is OP, or you think the civ is OP, or what are you doing? I don't know. But the gods are coming through. What do you think? If you were playing in this tournament, KP, and which god do you want to ban the most?
The god that I shouldn't ban the most,
No,
because
the god you want to. The one you don't want
no,
to
but
see.
but
Okay,
no,
all right, go for it. You
because
answer
my
it.
strategy is the other way, boy. Right?
Okay.
I've only got one ban, so I might as well have you thinking about why bandit for the next 4 picks.
Ah.
Right? And but what you do is you've got to be live streaming at the same time. Just make sure your opponent doesn't look, and you just play marbles to decide which one you're going to ban.
True.
So there's no look. You don't get bogged down in the thought of why you banned, but your opponent is spending the entire draft process going, what is he planning to pick because of this? There we go.
You know, it's interesting you say that, not on the fact that it has any merit, but but if you ban let's just call it a D tier god, one that just never gets picked. There aren't any D tier gods in Myth because the game is actually balanced in a way such that every god shines in different sort of situations.
Yeah.
But let's just say there's a D tier god and you ban that god. That just means that you've opened up another slot for yourself to potentially pick a really good god.
Depending on
So
where
there you
you're
go.
banning, right? Like, that's always been an argument in different esports, not just AOM, not just AoE 4
Yeah.
or 2. Like, Dota 2 has had this for a long time, right? It's the first pick advantage, right? And then also there's advantages. So, for example, in Dota 2, you can choose which side of the map you want to be on, or you can choose, like, you know, do you want to be first or second? So, like, they try to balance the dynamic there, but people a few years ago figured out, oh, no, you always take this side of the map, and then you like force them to give you second pick, right? So it's like very big brain, deep in the woods thought processes for a game of 120 picks. And I think it's similar here, where I mean we saw it for Wallalow, right? Like I saw it in the 4 grand finals. We had it in Myth as well, where you can essentially ban the second best god, and then you just go to your opponent and go on. Like, are you going to ban it, or are you going to leave it open, right? Is there something you need for your draft? And I just get it for free. So it is a thing. I don't know if we've got the perfect drafting solution for AOM. It took Age of Empires 4 about 2.5 years to get there, I want to say, to get a really, really good one. And I imagine we'll see some iterations over time of Myth, especially as new gods get added in.
Totally. And it's like, for Myth, these players, this is the first time, or second time with Wallalow. This is the first real big long form tournament that we're seeing drafts being used.
Yeah.
And we are seeing players getting better at this, I would say. So as strategy comes through and everything gets like a little bit more, well, like you say, I'm not going to ban the best god because I'm first pick, or I'm going to target ban my opponent, or I'm not going to ban a specific god because my opponent can play them all, but I'm going to open myself up to get these picks instead. And you start thinking about it down the line. Yeah, maybe there needs to be some changes. Maybe there doesn't. At this point, like I said at the start, I don't even know. If I was playing this, I don't even know what I would ban.
Yeah, because like one thing that you're saying, for example, that gods have all these different situations they can shine in, but there is an element of like, oh, I'm hard counterpicked on this specific matchup, right? And something that 4 didn't have at first, because when 4 first came out, Age of Empires 4, that is, not the God 4, you could have mirrors, was one thing that we've now done away with. And another thing was that we used to have drafts, they had to be set up in a way that even when we got rid of mirrors, you would pick 5 picks for a best of 5, like we have here. Now what we do is, for example, if you have a best of 7, you draft, say, 5 picks, and then you redraft after game 4, right? Which is very interesting, because the whole goal of that is drafting should be a skill, and you should have an opportunity to outdraft. But there's nothing more underwhelming than just this idea that the draft decided the outcome of the tournament, right? So yeah,
Totally.
there's a lot of
Yeah,
cool
that last
things
that
that could
last
happen,
game 5, for sure, that makes a lot of
right?
sense. Last game
Yeah.
5. If I know what the god's gonna be, then if I'm up 2-1 in a series and I see there's like my opponent's got 2 gods left and I've got 2, and I see, well, one of my gods counters this god, the other god counters both the gods. So I can just throw game 4 and get a really easy game 5 win.
And
Yeah.
that would happen. That was a very big problem. It's a hard one to solve. It's also why I'm never a believer in one game advantage grand finals from the upper bracket, because
Yeah.
you already create a sloped environment where someone can toss away a good civ. Like to one of the most memorable examples I have is Vortex, who was playing earlier. He had a series against Marine Lord in 4 in the early days, and Marine Lord just he threw the worst civ in the game at the time up against the best civ. He knew the best civ was coming, right? Because Vortex is behind. He has to. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun discussing this. I think I'd love to see what kind of ideas the community can come up with around Myth, because I don't think EGC would say they've solved it, they've come up with the perfect solution straight away. Like, that's rarely ever the case. But there's so many different angles you can go for. Like in a best of 5, do you just have, for example, 2 BO3 drafts, right? Like where you draft 4 gods and then you reset halfway through.
Yeah, I mean, can you, in that situation, then you could probably also say, well, you can redraft but not pick the god you've already picked as well, right? So you can
If
have,
you want to get creative, yeah. Like there's loads of
especially
cool
when you get,
systems.
especially when you get more gods added into the game, like China's coming. That moves us from
Yep.
13 gods up to 16 gods. So that's a lot more options there. And then we got another DLC coming, who knows when, with another 3 gods getting added in. And then we've also got potential for the extra
Goes on.
Greek, Egyptian,
All the ones being theory
Atlantean.
crafted on Reddit. Yeah, I've seen them in the YouTube
Yeah,
videos.
so
Oh,
there's so much potential to
I,
come through, and we've also got already, there's a shout out to modders out in the community. They haven't quite made it into Retold just yet, but in Legacy we had, I want to say we had like 15 fan made gods that were made playable and pretty high quality, in all honesty. So there's so much potential to get this game going from, it's a fairly big amount of pickable gods, but it could get into that crazy amount, and this drafting thing can get very, very complicated very, very quickly.
I mean, dude, I mean, obviously, when we've done it all, round it all out, Hestia is going to be Bestia. That's obvious. But the thing is, to that, I started my esports career in Dota 2, and Dota 2 has about 100, well, over 120 heroes now, right? About 122 when I started. So think about that for a second. Like, unique picks can only be picked once. You have 10 bans, 10 picks in total in the game, right? Like, you see how this adds up, like the amount of permutations. Now, that sounds overwhelming, especially for anyone who's nerded on YouTube for 20 plus hours sitting at a time learning build orders. But that's where the importance of focusing on your own strategy comes in, right? So, like, to bring the whole conversation back to the opening bans, your focus shouldn't be on, what's OP right now? As you said, the balance is in a fairly good position. Your focus instead should be, what is the cornerstone of my draft, right? I'm focusing on these gods. These would be my preferable gods. If I get 2 out of the 4 that are my best gods, what counters them the most, right? Remove that from the pool instead.
Yeah, totally. Well, the draft is over, KP.
It is.
Hades,
they
Zeus,
remove
Gaia,
it?
Poseidon, Isis versus Set, Loki, Thor, Odin, Kronos. Blue Lagoon first game. Zeus versus Set.
What? Like, so we just basically got someone showing they're a Greek main versus someone showing, well, they're mostly a Norse main. They just hate Freya. You don't often get this kind of divide, right? Especially when I think Greeks and Norse are in particular involved, because they still have some really volatile picks. Things like Loki and Thor come to mind. And then on the other side, I mean, Poseidon has been ban-worthy in a lot of players' eyes. Hades, I think, has one of the highest pick rates in the tournament so far, if I'm not mistaken. So not often you see this type of divide.
There's a funny stat that it doesn't apply to Retold, but in Legacy, there was not a single Norse player that won an S tier tournament.
Really?
Greek, on the other hand,
Oh, he goes.
very, very, very. The Greek and Egyptian were the gods that kind of had a lot of success in those very final games. I do expect that to be very different. We've already seen Norse winning in the finals, right? So it's already different. But yeah, the only problem with picking Norse in tournament is that it's just a hard civ to play. It's just hard. It's not that it's weak. It's just like you can't make any mistakes. You got to use your infantry to build. You can get yourself on the back foot, and as soon as you're on the back foot, it's over for you. I'm excited to see Tunison play with this though, because he is a Aranos player, he's an Atlantean player at heart, but he can play all the gods at a high level. SuperAfim the same thing. He's an Egyptian player at heart, but can play all of the gods at a high level as well. Both of these guys are getting one of their like main civ, Isis, Chronos, and the rest are kind of, yeah, like you say, Greek versus Norse. It's going to be exciting.
Especially with what you just kind of lined up and the way it's playing out, where like the Egyptian main is going to be up against it. But you know what, folks? Let's kick it off. We are going deeper into the round of 8 here with a Fox team showdown in Genesis Retold. Here on the blue side, the first Fox member in this series is SuperAfim on Zeus.
And his teammate, unfortunately, colliding at this point in the tournament. In the red color playing a set, his name is Tunison.
Fun one to open up on with Blue Lagoon here, you know, like... It's kind of interesting how many clashes we've had between teammates, but we were saying on the broadcast, it's not really because we've lined them up against each other. It's just there's a few teams and they've stacked a lot of players, right? Like I think, what was the most recent one? Was it Tunison or SuperAfim, right? Because Vortex was the one that Fox definitely made a big deal out of, given his legacy. But I think if they blow it up to 3 or is it 4 team members now for the Fox clan?
Fox, I think there's 4 from memory. One Fox member didn't get through the qualifiers, had a tough draw. But yeah, most of them did qualify. So they've had a really, really good showing. Aces, on the other hand, is the other big kind of esports team with Mister and Crew Rappel going at it. But you're absolutely right. There's just not that many teams. That's why we're seeing them jump into it. But we've got our matchup. We've got Blue Lagoon. We've got Set. We've got Zeus. The first keys here for SuperAfim to kind of unlock and get himself an advantage here is find this priest. If you find this priest, you can whack it with the Katoska boss, you can bolt it if you want to, and you can shut down a big part of what makes Set function, which is that animal conversion in the early game.
Well, he's kind of been tipped off to it because he just yoinked a bunch of sheep running on by. Oh, he goes south side though, so... The problem with this as well is like the bolt is so valuable that the longer you wait, the more you hesitate to find this, the less valuable it would be to do in the first place.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are some tricks you can do to kind of see if your opponent's at a location once he converts one of those animals.
Units,
yeah, it looks
well, you can't go guy funky units in this, can we? Yeah.
With a guy, well, Mother Nature. What are those Mother Nature units? It actually starts to look a little funny through the fog of war. So you can kind of get tipped off if you're looking for it. But Tunison gets lucky. He's stealing Hunt away from that town center. That's actually kind of big because oftentimes we see Zeus wanting to go for a far second town center of sorts. And while there's going to be berries there, you can't steal the berries away. Stealing that Hunt does really hurt going for that second town center early.
It does feel tough to try and go for a second town center in this matchup though, right? Because Set has that really potent timing where they can even just pull workers to attack your second town center. And with the animal kingdom behind them, we've seen plenty of players fall victim to it.
Yeah, the only way you can make it guaranteed to work is have that ceasefire. So you see homies coming in, it's there. You don't really want to use it to get the town center up. You're absolutely right. You want to save it for ancestors or maybe to defend against the tornado timing or just a shifting sands later in the game. But if you have to, you can do it. But there's another option as well where you jump in straight with a couple of Hippias, shut down all of the line of sight, shut down all of the potential options. We see a stable coming through for SuperAfim, and then you get that town center a little bit later and play around the shifting sands a little bit. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Wonder.
We'll see what this goes for.
There's no way you open cavalry here, right? Like we've seen sometimes used to do that for a little bit of poke and prod, but against Set, that would feel like a death sentence. I mean, he has got the stables down.
It's I guess that the thought process is it's a counter in a way to a naked far second town center from the Set player, which probably isn't meta at the moment or at any point, but in this matchup, but you know, it's definitely always on the cards. And if you get caught out and be a little bit greedy and go a different route, the set player can find a slight advantage going that way. That's my only thought. I don't know if it's accurate or not.
I mean, at this point, I think no matter the Civ on our screens, we've got to be worried about second town centers, right? Like Kronos has been doing it a lot. We've seen Seth doing it more and more here. But yeah, we are at least going to have hippies coming. Additional centaurs also being added in. Not a bad choice, because although Tunison is going into spears, he's got a very immobile ranged formatting here, right? Like he's got the Wajits, which are not going to be able to react quickly, and doesn't have many priests either.
Yeah, there's still the bolt, so we can get rid of one of those myth units if need be, but those get massed really quickly. I've been seeing a lot of Egyptian players, Ra and Set alike, getting up to 4 of these Wajits and going for villager raids with them. If you hit 4 spit attacks before hunting survival, what's it called? I've forgotten what it's called. Survival equipment comes in the heroic age. 4 shots, it dies to poison. The villager dies to poison. So you can get in, get a whole bunch of shots off on different villages, and you can kill so many straight away. It's going to be a really, really strong way to play. But it does require you, like you say, very mobile army, and allows your opponent to play around you a little bit and try and find value elsewhere.
Now, if this drags out in Age 2, this is going to become a matchup of forcing the god power, right? Like on both sides, because we mentioned the ceasefire and how invaluable it is. I'd say at this point, ceasefire probably easily top 2 in terms of Age 2 powers. It's good enough to be an Age 3 power in most cases. On the other side, shifting sands is what enables the Wajit strategy. Without that, you can't go raiding onto these economies you just mentioned.
Yes. Shifting sands. Ceasefire. Maybe it's worthwhile to do it anyways, just to get ceasefire off the table for later power spikes, right?
Interesting, yeah. And then I guess in Age 3, yeah, you do have some potency there. I think maybe something like, what would you go for? Locust, maybe?
Nephthys Ancestors is my
Ancestors is better.
guess, but actually, there's also Segment, right? Without any timing attacks involved, but just Segment,
you're right, yeah.
later shifting sands and scarabs could take down a location pretty brutally. But yeah, we don't even need the shifting sands because he just walked across the map right now with this immobile army, and SuperAfim is now having to retreat back. This is a little bit of damage that I don't think he's going to be happy to be suffering. Doesn't take any villager losses, but lots of idle villager time. Watchtowers is up.
Close though. It's so close to the base and the gold as well, and the idle time could hurt a lot. So
yeah,
Obelisk, as you said, is going to be coming up. We've got a little bit of poke coming in. The spits come out. Let's go force it back quite early here. As you can see, that damage already stacking up. Waited around a little bit too long there, so villagers starting to get targeted down. Love that as well. Tunison, that centaur shot isn't going to deter your Wedgets, so you just leave them in range, let them keep poking, and then afterwards you can just kiss the boo-boos better, right? They only take like 10, 15 health off.
Yeah. I mean, I love this here from Tunison. He's got the obelisk up as well, so he gets to see everything. This is something that Mister's been kind of innovating a bit, is these aggressive obelisks, just so, you know, when your opponent's going to be engaging, you can set up and reformat, reformat, that's not the right word. Fix your formations in the army. Fix the formations of your army so that you can defend everything that's coming at you. But also, just being able to push in with the Wadgets is really, really strong.
This is so uncomfortable what SuperAfim is doing. Bolt comes in on the separate Wajit, commits the hippies, is into mass spears, has to relocate on top of the Wajit to try and be safe, and the shifting sands is going to be there, but he screws up! The spearman, he fumbles, 5 of them get left behind. The primary army is out, but that's still additional losses that should have been completely avoided for Tunison.
That was such a good engagement. We were talking just before about line of sight and how important it is, but SuperAfim, he groups up like 3 separate groups of units there and just surrounds perfectly. Maybe Tunison could have hung out there and actually taken the fight. He would have lost everything, but he would have made a decent trade. But now he's downshifting sands. Ceasefire is still on the table. SuperAfim can grab a town center. He can go heroic age. He can do whatever he wants. Now, he's got to be feeling good moving forward, right?
Yeah. And the other thing as well is like the patience SuperAfim showed. Like if you look back at that era where they fought, he waited until Tunison walked beyond the goal. That was intentional. He wanted to engage when there was no choke point, so that a small group of spears wouldn't be able to protect the wedges. So that was elegant from SuperAfim. Very high level. But with Age 3 on the way, like there is a bit of a conundrum coming in. You mentioned the possibility of something like a second town center. SuperAfim, he has got a strong army. Although the military count seems against him, the centaurs cannot be written off easily here. I am a little bit surprised that he stayed at home after forcing the shifting sands.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have...
Forever. He's staying at home forever. Never are they going to move again. They just stay there until we're ready to go back. That's the power we have here on the EGC TV broadcast. If we need a coffee break or we need a sub break, because I haven't seen enough subs in chat recently, so you guys need enough time to enter your credit card details to subscribe so you don't have to worry about ads for the next several hours and then the next weekend. And then we can unpause the game and continue on. Boom.
Well, what we can do during this slight moment of technical difficulties is we can talk about this situation right now in the game. It's 9 minutes, 30 seconds in. We can kind of predict a little bit of what's going to be happening here. Ancestors comes through. Gold mine for SuperAfim is going to be expiring within the next, 2 to 3 minutes? So, big fat fight coming in 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
What do you do if you're playing as Zeus? Yes, you still got ceasefire, but that's only going to cut 30 seconds off the ancestors. Still going to be some stuff coming in. What do you do to survive where that's concerned?
I think the advantage you at least have is if you play forward of your base, you do have a cavalry comp, right? So after your opponent kind of goes a little bit ham, you can run away. He would have committed the ancestors, then you ceasefire. Or if you ceasefire in the mid map, you can potentially still buy time. It's a little bit awkward though. I think you're right. Like if SuperAfim reads through it and just Tunison reads through it and says, "Oh, I just go," he can just park himself in your base for the end of the ceasefire. So I want to almost say maybe something like as simple as walling, right? Like when you ceasefire up, take the opportunity to throw down some walls.
I love some walls. There was about... Okay, so I have a love-hate relationship with walls.
Okay.
I know how good they are, but I just refuse to build them. Not because I don't want to, but just because I'm just lazy. It's just like I'm just late. I can admit I'm lazy, and I get bitten in the bum quite a bit when I'm playing. But you're absolutely right. A little bit of walling can be the difference between 10 seconds and a new unit coming in, or like just losing the game. You know,
I'm with you, by the way. Like if I spend resources on walling, walls aren't going to kill people. You know.
That's right. That's exactly right. Why would I want to send a villager out there to build a wall when I could leave it in my base, get more resources, get more dudes to throw them at my opponent?
Are you that guy like me in an MMO who gets given 1 million gold to budget for his equipment and spends it all on the weapons because armor isn't going to get me the kills, but
That's right. Yeah,
better
you're
spear
right.
is.
I can just go and buy a one-hit kill dart. Big boss is dead.
Mate, I can tell you've played some MOBAs in the past. We've got the same mentality there. They look at my inventory, they're like, where's your defensive vibe? Defending? So I think we're just confirming now. We should be able to get back into that. Apologies, folks. There's a little bit of a hiccup there in the replay. So we should be able to hop back in just a few minutes. If you're just tuning in, by the way, this is our second series of the day. You did miss out on Vortex versus Pegasus. That's right. We're looking like the Fox fan club here so far. But as we get deeper, we should be seeing a mixture of other names in there when we get into the next round of eliminations, which will be kicking off straight after this one. Oh.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple minutes.
I think we're speeding through. Minutes. Yeah, you make it sound like he's just going through at 1x speed.
I'm not going to say anything about replay and the speed you can go through them at. All right, we're just gonna go in with Zeus versus Set. This is everything that I care about right now. The game is the game.
So you can't just click on a time bar where you want to go. Okay. We don't have that technology. I can
actually explain how this works. So the technology is not there. So the way that replays work in Age of Mythology is that when you're playing the game, the game actually records your action.
Yep.
that you make throughout the game. So that when you're actually watching the replay, you're not watching a video of the game. You're actually just watching the players play it again with the actions that go through. So in order to actually speed that up, the game actually needs to have a fastest speed that is possible to play at.
And that is done for a reason, right? So basically, folks, that if you don't do that, you can cause desync, which would then make the replay inaccurate to what actually happened. It's the same reason why for years RTSs have used peer-to-peer lockstep. The whole idea is that you send your command to your opponent, their version simulates the command, and then they do vice versa. It keeps you in lockstep. Recent additions have started to come out, newer generation games, things like Stormgate, that when you look at the tech side of things, have some really impressive things happening. Help with that process. It doesn't need to rely on that old system. But yes, typically the other reason you do this is that by basically giving commands instead of keeping full recording, it keeps the size of the replays down because you're just being sent a list of commands. So there is a bunch of reasons why it's viable. It's also why you don't see many RTSs having the idea of hot join, because the problem with hot join is in a peer-to-peer lockstep system. The way it does that is it's keeping a backlog of all your moves. So if you were to join a 20-minute game, you'd have to download you'd have to potentially download logs that are 400, 500 megs big, depending on how inefficient they are on their storing, right? That's why games a long time ago looked at the idea of doing hot join and went, it's really not worth it, especially in primarily a 1v1 genre, because if someone's disconnected, they're piecing out anyway, right? Like they're probably like even just 30 seconds of them being AFK before you realize and pause could be enough to have decided the game.
Totally.
All right, we nerded out hard there. I think
that's big nerds.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I play a game that's based 6,000-ish years in the past. It's got mythical beasts in it. It's got
you could have stopped it.
and
I play a game that has build orders. All right, that
I have
would have sounded nerdy enough.
I have a game that requires a fair amount of study to play at a competitive game. You can't just jump into this game and button mash and expect to beat someone.
but wait, are you sure, boy? Because I heard that APM wins RTSs. I mean,
Does it?
I don't know. That's what people keep telling me.
Depends on
Isn't
the
APM
RTS.
button mashing?
Is
like,
it?
If I drag my face across the keyboard, I have very high APM.
Oh, that's true. If you play Oranos, you can put your face on the keyboard and then you can win. I've heard that one before. Yeah.
Well, okay, no, that's unfair to Oranos players, boy. Okay, I'm going to have to refute that statement. They do have to accurately build 10 oracles first before dragging their face across the keyboard. All right, it looks like we're ready to get back in the game. Apologies for that, folks. We are back where we left off, the stare down between SuperAfim and Tunison in this opening game.
Yes, and we were talking about where this game's going to be going. That gold mine for SuperAfim is going to be expiring. He's going Heroic Age now, so he's going to have bronze and something to use, but there will be an Ancestors. There's a lot of Spearmen. SuperAfim's still going into Cavalry here, not making any effort to build any sort of infantry units, though. Once he hits the Heroic Age, he gets access to those Pacifists, which are counter-infantry units, which can absolutely demolish this Spearman army. The question is, will Tunison be able to adapt to that and get his gold starve happening? Or, will SuperAfim be able to completely dominate here?
I mean, Tunison is a struggle to even reach out to that north side gold, right? Because the thing I'm thinking is that high ground can be exploited to kind of ambush your opponent with the widgets. It's like terrain can actually play an impact when you consider both of these sides are using a very important backline. The slight mispositioning could just immediately lose you the fight. But Afim, he's looking to pressure here. He has the Ancestrals at the ready. And it looks like we have got a move out. He doesn't want to have it cast into his base. He's going to try to force something a bit more defensive out of his opponent here.
Yes, and we're seeing SuperAfim move in. You're absolutely right. Keeping Tunison back allows him to get that defensive Ancestors potentially on the and that's what's happening right here.
The body blocks weren't there quick enough, and he actually did use the ceasefire, so he was a little bit paranoid that the main was going to lose him a few units on the retreat. Not to mention, if you think about it, the formation shuffle would have put the centaurs at the back where they would have got clipped by melee units. So I'm not against this, and we did talk earlier about the idea that if you force the Ancestrals here, it's much harder now for Tunison to leverage the last 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Wait,
there's almost
my brain on the wrong side.
Tunison has the ancestors.
Wait, you're right. The names on the top are the wrong way around. We're having that moment. Tunison is playing. There we go. Thank you. Bloody hell. I knew it was going to happen when we came back. And well, it looks like the mummies have found needful children here. Several villagers going to get picked off on the flank.
This is at least to get something out of the ancestors. But now the power balance swings back into SuperAfim. He's got some ability now to utilize bronze and make a push happen. But he needs to not be too quick about it. You know what I mean? If he goes right now, he's down 50 population. That's a lot. So he does have a lot of myth units which work really, really good with that bronze. Obviously not against those priests that are doing divine damage, but it looks like he's going to be going for it. And Tunison may just be able... He's got the high ground here, KP.
Well, let's see if he's Anakin or Obi-Wan in this situation. Shots come out from the Centaurs. A big hit on the spears, forcing them back. And the bronze has been activated, so the Hippias not feeling countered for 2 reasons in this fight. Able to start spamming over that wave of spearmen. Does pull the Hydra away before it gets sniped down. The Centaurs should be getting the recharge shot coming through to try and wipe that high ground. And we still have 25 seconds more of this armor. Military lead, however, is heavily in favor of Tunison. The Hippias have been thinned through. Yes, they took a lot of spears with them, but that was not a favorable resource exchange, especially when you consider Tunison was also raiding the base.
That's absolutely wild. He literally just held that push while having basically 20 population of his army not in it.
I am flabbergasted right now. Not just that, right? Like when you consider those initial centaur shots, Tunison's reaction wasn't swift. He took a lot of saturation damage there, and it still didn't matter.
I guess this means just one thing, KP. Set OP, right?
We're nerfing Greeks, yeah? Is it time again?
Yeah, nerf Greek again.
They won all the tournaments in traditional, and you know the winner of Red Bull Wall was Greek, so I'm on board with this. Yeah, let's nerf the crap out of them. And immediately a GG call. So Tunison gets the opening game in this Fox showdown.
I mentioned it, right? There's no way that SuperAfim can take that fight being down that much population. When you're playing against Egyptians' advantage is that they spam units. They spam units faster than you. Their units cost less than you. Their units are worse than yours in terms of stats. But they get more of them. So the way to win is when does that spammage advantage stop being a factor? Well, it's when you get to population. So you've got to get to population first, and then your units are just going to start winning.
I mean, the crazy thing as well is like he weathered the storm, right? We already saw the ancestors get used. That was the panic moment. The moment that has been disposed of, you can go back to playing the game as if you're playing a cavalry civ because you are playing cavalry, right? So flank, raid, poke. We're also so deep in the game that, you know, you've already had to come out onto the flanks to find resources. You know your opponent is going to do so as well. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think we shouldn't be surprised by this outcome. I mean, we love vodka, but there's a reason he's observing and not playing this tournament. He shouldn't have been trying to fight up against Tunison. Just noticed that.
Vodka versus Tunison. It's close. He got a lot of unit kills. He did have more unit kills. A lot of that is in the animals, though, which aren't really worth anything. But better luck next time, Vodka.
Nah, we'll let Fox's teammate take over now. We'll get SuperAfim back in the action. So, game 2, and it is going to be more of the Greeks. Afim seeming very cozy. Remember, the majority of his draft is Greek, so we kind of expect this. Is this a better outlook for SuperAfim or Tunison for game number 2, though? Because this time it's against Odin.
Well, it's traditionally a challenging matchup for Poseidon, just on the fact that Odin has got a boost on Berserks, which are an infantry unit, and Poseidon's got a boost on cavalry, which get countered by infantry. But that being said, I don't actually think it's that big of a deal. You can make Toxotes, you can make Centaur, you can make Hoplites, all of that stuff is going to be enough to counter a whole bunch of Berserks that come through. And you're just going to probably end up seeing most players go into mass raiding cavalry versus mass hippias to kick the game off anyways. So it's going to come down to raids. It's going to come down to multitasking, defending, making sure your villagers don't get caught out, working out where your weaknesses are. It's on Savannah, so nice and open map. So a perfect setup for 2 raiding civs.
One thing I do like here actually for Odin is like if you have to take a slightly more defensive angle, usually the problem there is, I think this is part of why Poseidon feels so good, right? Is you go cavalry, you take control of the map, and then you have a choice, the branching choice. All in, or I like TCs. And we've seen Poseidon's very good at taking either option because you have that map control. And because you are, I'd say, a bit more lean cavalry-wise, you might be favored there against Odin. But the cool thing, at least about Odin, is they can scout where other civs cannot. They've always got the Ravens, and if this is a mass hippias type strategy, there's no easy way of blunting or preventing that vision entirely. So I could see a world in which Odin takes a more defensive footing here. But the question mark is, after that opening game, does that really fit into the Tunison plan? Because I feel like you kind of expect Set to be the aggro party there, but he was really trying to send it from a very early point with that widget strategy.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the idea of if I'm aggressive, I get an advantage. Or at least I can force my opponent to make mistakes. So he does have Odin. Odin does have that great hunt, does get to sit in his base for longer, does get to get like a little bit of extra resource income to spam units out in the early game and get on the front foot. But what can he attack? We'll have to wait and see. Savannah going to be kicking into it relatively shortly. KP, I don't know. This one's a tough one to call. It's all going to come down to skill, and I love that.
Exactly. I'm reading the rest of the draft deeper. I think SuperAfim's draft gets a little bit better in the later games. Got good defensive civs with defensive maps. Tunison's entire angle remains aggressive from the set pick to the Loki, 4, who's rewarded for that aggression by getting economy, Kronos. Like, this is very much a more aggressively drafted approach from Tunison. Kind of feels like he needs that quick series. And when you think about the maps being selected, it is at least favoring him, right? We have Blue Lagoon. Now we have Savannah. I think we're ready to actually hop into it. Tundra comes to mind. Anatolia games can get very snowbally. We've seen that. I mean, upside for Tunison as well is that Zeus pick was already removed. And there we go. We're good. So with the Zeus pick being removed, I don't think you have to freak out about Anatolia as much as you normally would. I imagine it's a Gaia pick there for Fim, which would leave Hades for Alfheim, Isis, Tundra.
I'm honestly thinking Loki on Anatolia. This is hidden OP pick. Ragnarok is unstoppable on that map because once the gold mines expire in your main base, you have to move on to the middle. And as soon as you're there, all the villagers turn into berserks. Flaming weapons comes in, and everyone cries except for the Loki players. Finally, we see advantage Norse player.
We have seen Kronos there as well, actually.
Kronos
think
is also good there. You're right.
Yeah.
Isis is also good there. Hades is actually also good there as well.
Everything is good there, is literally what we got to was in the end.
I'm trying to say that. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, that's the way you want to draft. We talked about this, right? The elegance of it. You want to keep your options open. But I think I do recall a particular Kronos game that we were robbed in the last minute of, but it turned out to be one of the insane games of the tournament. So surprisingly effective when they can come out in Anatolia. We are just rejigging the stream right now, guys. So I know there's a waiting for the game to start. We will be getting in a sec. You keep hearing the wonderful voices or noises rather inviting us in. But yeah, I don't know. I like this approach to drafting. I feel like we've had a lot of talk about drafting today, but it is. I think it's something that sometimes gets forgotten about in RTSs because when you think about the big RTSs people are familiar with, like a lot of people think StarCraft, there's map draft, but there isn't Civ draft, right? So you just focus on the players within. Age of, we're familiar with it in Age of Empires 2. If I'm not mistaken, the OG Age of Myth tournaments typically didn't have as much banning picking, right? Like I think there were a lot of tournaments where you're allowed to kind of repick the same Civ, right?
Yes, actually, that's the way that we played Myth for, I don't know, probably like 15, 16 years, right?
Yeah, if you're a Zeus mate, every single game.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like we have the Mr. versus Magic history, And not only could you pick the same god every single game, you
They
could also
did.
pick the same map every single game.
Wait, what? I
So
didn't know about that part. What?
there was a very silly tournament that happened eons ago.
Yeah.
Mister will tell you about it. He's probably still salty about it, to be honest. Magic, I think he won one game to kick it off.
Mhm.
It was whatever. And then the next game happens, Mister wins, and loser picks the map.
Mhm.
And Magic would just go, Isis at that time was the strongest god on
Yep.
Anatolia, and he would just pick Anatolia, win, and then next map, Mister would pick a map, win, Anatolia again, win, Anatolia again, and then he cleans the 7 game series 4-3, winning on Anatolia 3 games in a row.
Isn't this better, folks? I mean, it's
What
interesting.
we did say though, what we did
Okay.
say, just as a quick aside, is
Yeah.
as we've already mentioned it, as balance and God's strengths kind of move certain ways on certain maps. We did get like how do I say this? We had a tournament where we tried to get as many different maps thrown in at once. And we're going to
Okay.
be jumping into
Yeah,
SuperAfim versus
we
Tunison
have
now.
we don't
Alright,
have to repeat maps
I'll come back to
anymore.
my story.
We will get
to my
back
story
to
later.
the history of Age of Mythology shortly after we make some new history here as we hop into game number 2. SuperAfim trailing here is looking to rely on the Greeks again, this time in the blue as Poseidon.
And in the red here, trying to continue what he started in game number 1. He's playing as Odin, and his name is Tunison.
Ooh, so, first things first, we've got to kind of look at the map spawns and figure out, like, is there any exposure point? Because one big thing on this map, especially when you play Odin, you want to find a way to use that hunt. You start off with a decent amount, but gotta say, looking at the spawn, his movement is kind of predictable, right? Play 1 TC, shifts outside. So that could be an exposure point, right? If Poseidon sees that, if SuperAfim reads the map that way, he can easily use that to kind of spread you between the hunt away and your resources at home. Because the other tough part on this spawn for Tunison is the map has divided gold and hunt pretty aggressively from each other.
Yeah, this might even be a situation where you just don't leave your base as both players. Just on the fact that how are you going to set up a position that you're just going to be stuck on the hunt. You're not going to be able to move your army away, otherwise you're going to lose all the villages there to a random raid from raiding cavalry or hippias. So maybe the idea is SuperAfim's got a pretty crazy idea that he could just drop lures in his base, 30 favor, never have to leave. And Tunison can also drop great hunts in his base. Not the best idea, but he could do it. But just go straight into farms, like eat your berries, eat your chicken, eat your goats, farms, and just say, yeah, I'm behind, but at least I'm not going to be losing villagers throughout this entire game and having something be very, very messy.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here to that point as well is, like, when you think about the idea of leaning on Gaia, SuperAfim will be favored there, right? Because the problem with the dynamics of this matchup is, how is Tunison going to generate favor? You're either going to build hearses or you're going to fight. And what is Poseidon going to do? Build cavalry. So hearses sounds terrible to spam because you're primarily just going to be up against units that will counter you. And going for fights is going to be difficult because your opponent has cavalry that can just walk away.
Well, we're going to be seeing fairly shortly the way that they're going to go. Freya, Hermes, no surprises in all honesty. One day we're going to see an Odin player try Heimdall out.
Right?
It's not going to be this day.
Like, maybe
Actually, I
in the
learned
next
something
decade?
today. KP.
Oh, yeah?
Undermine affects a settlement that's under construction.
Ooh.
Didn't know this.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means if your opponent rushes a second town center up or it gets caught, and you can catch it really easily with Norse, I'll tell you exactly how. But if they go for that town center, you can click undermine when it's at like 500 HP, and that's lost resources. And the way you do it is you just drop a house on both the towns or both the settlements. And there's no way for them to get the town center up.
So
Happened to me today. I got caught out.
So what you're
There you go.
saying is we just need a map that has water on it where the meta is to go to TC.
That's right.
We're not asking much.
I wonder if those maps exist or not. I don't know.
I don't know. There might be some for it. We might have had a series today, but I think that was unraveled without the need for an undermine. We have got pressure coming in versus. I mean, this is what we talked about, right? And this is before we even get to the mass hippies. This is just the initial heroes, which are better quality for the Greeks. Just makes it difficult to fight.
Yeah. So SuperAfim getting be having this moment to put pressure on, but this moment gets very, very quickly out of hand if he stays here for too long. He has to get this perfectly timed, get the damage in, sniper berserk there, nice play. But soon we're going to see raiding cavalry coming through, and SuperAfim, he's going to have to get out of here. But how much damage can he really get done is the big question.
He can keep poking, even use the centaur over that wall that's been constructed. So it's going to dive in. Nice strike there, forces a lot of idle time. We have at least got more cav coming, but it's always the issue is even if you manage to pinch this army, it's not ideal, but he can just use the ceasefire to get away, easy peasy.
Yeah, you don't. Well, ceasefire is always going to be on the table, so you have to get rid of it. Getting rid of it early, better than later, I guess.
I mean, I'm just interested in this new god power called Mute, which means you can't hear anything. We are aware of this, folks. Don't worry. We'll look to get it resolved ASAP. It's just unfortunately one of those things when we had to reboot into the replays, so we should have it back shortly.
I could start making the noises.
Can we make the noises?
Skeep on.
Oh, well, actually, we're looking at dwarves, so we're just going to have to sing the song. Ho, ho, hi, ho, it's off to work we go. Okay, I know the dirty version of that song, so I'm going to stop singing before I accidentally sing it. We have got the cavalry coming. Rohirrim riders on the way across to do some return damage. So, Afim, his reaction is about as quick as a goldfish here. Finally pulls away. It looks like one villager should be struck down. So, good start there for Tunison. Able to get a kill that matters. And in fact, okay, that was almost a catastrophe. SuperAfim can't really afford to be losing the heroes this early when the cavalry is already scaling like this.
Yeah, this is great now for Tunison. We're talking about how this kind of situation flips on its head very, very quickly in the early stages of the game, and getting a villager kill this early for Tunison, plus also distracting this massive, really, really high quality units, Centaur, Atalanta, Hippias. Tunison now, he's going to be very, very comfortable. We've also seen him getting himself Thundering Hooves, prioritizing that really, really early. So not only has he now pushed SuperAfim back, but he's also now going to have the speed to run rings around SuperAfim moving forward. Also, Sesrumner pre-queued this technology. He gives 15% bonus HP on those Hersa, which, if you know anything about the difference between a Hippias and a Hersa in terms of trading efficiency, the Hippias normally edges out just a little bit. But once you get Sesrumner, now the Hersa start trading kind of equally in the actual fights against not only those Hippias, but also the myth units that SuperAfim obviously wants to be building as well. So it's really, really nice tech, really, really nice decision making from Tunison. SuperAfim might need to consider making some hoplites here.
Of course, the other big difference between Hippias and Hersa is most of the letters in their name. But I agree. It's kind of interesting because it gives you an off ramp into a more static comp. Like, it's good to have these raiders, but we know as the game goes on, Poseidon scales really well with that. The centaurs also become more of a bit of a sore thorn in your side when you start to clump cavalry this large, right? Because that saturation damage then begins to really pay off.
Yeah, and at this moment, it's all just poking, right? So the speed and the momentum for Tunison, this is everything. But great walls up for SuperAfim, great house walls here. The chickens are a little bit exposed. Maybe SuperAfim could position his army a bit better. Raiding cavalry coming through. Not going to get anything happening, but
quite enough. But wait, we got the second group here. So this is about to turn into a game of Benny Hills. And it's difficult, right? You don't want to have to use that ceasefire, especially so early. Love these diving with the Ravens there, just to try and draw any fire away from the infantry coming in. But you've got, like, what, about a minute, 20 seconds to try and stall here. And behind this, Tunison, he ain't going to skip a beat. He's aging up himself as well. Njord about to trigger.
Yeah. Aphrodite, Njord. Interesting decisions from both players. You've got SuperAfim here. You could have gone for Dionysus. He's already making those Hippias. Getting Thracian horses in would be a real big advantage, considering Tunison doesn't have access to Bragi, which is, getting deep into some weird technological theory here, but Bragi has really, really strong herdmen, which are a great counter to Thracian horses, cavalry.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have that. So opting in for the Aphrodite instead, going into hoplites, he's going to have to move into something else apart from these Hippias. As Tunison, he's gone Njord, which gives him really big Jarls, which obviously you're going to need some counters for those.
Yeah, so we are going to actually have a situation where SuperAfim is essentially going to be locked in his base by the looks of it at this pace. Tunison just trying to be relentless with the pressure as he does set up the proxy bases. Just on the edge. Now, we do have the curse, which is a big deal here. So the problem I'm seeing right now is, as it currently stands, Tunison doesn't really have the god powers that line up the same way, right? Even when we reach this age 3, Walking Woods can be good, but it requires you to kind of force a fight elsewhere before it becomes accessible. All of the Afim's tools are designed to enable a very big critical engagement.
If only you could forest fire Walking Woods, then you could use it anywhere.
I'm telling you, yeah, just move it on the go.
That's right.
At that point, you just got like a Red Alert 2 demo truck, and whoa, Curse comes in. Body blocks the back line of it, so has to commit in. The Walking Woods is going to come through to try and just layer in the cake here. The Nemean line getting some good roars out. Isn't being focus fired down just yet. Can the Hippias line hold out with the whole potato on the front here? It's looking reasonable for Afim. He still does have the ceasefire if things start to get bleak. For the time being, the pressure is good. He is going to have to retreat a bit here. Nemean line should have the roar available, but no trigger coming out. So shifts at the backside with only 1 HP. Does get it out of there. Could still go for the roar. Is going to get it just before the strike comes through. So that delays part of the army attacking. Will still go down. And the pressure's still being mounted, but Tunison's army has been heavily relieved of its life here. Down to 29 pop. And Afim now building a lead.
Yeah, I think Tunison just needs to retreat here. He thought he had enough of an advantage or enough of a counter with Walking Woods versus that curse, but reality there, that army was just so strong for SuperAfim. But can he figure out how to delay here and get himself back into this game from a military standpoint? Villagers are now outside of the base. They're on that second gold mine.
We've got the front
raids
line
are happening.
well. I mean, the raids are just being mirrored out, though. Funnily enough, it's mainly just Atlanta. Centaurs need to really be addressed. They're dealing with this clump up quite well. The problem is we just don't have the hero units to make this a quick snipe. So fights seemingly getting harder and harder for Tunison now. He's barely got any front line left over. The Giant is going to go down. And at this point, it's a trickle of troops versus what might just turn into an unrelenting wave of Greeks.
Yeah, this is where things get really, really challenging for the Norse player. When you're on the defensive, you have to just pull back into your base, and there's nothing left there. You can't build buildings anymore because you need to have them fighting just to stay alive. And you have to throw everything into the fight. And Tunison here, he's about to get gold starved. He's got very few gold in the bank. We are seeing some Valkyries coming out, which are going to be very, very strong here. But SuperAfim is going to have access to Atalanta and Hippolyta very, very shortly to deal with those. Just needs to invest in them once he realizes all of those myth units are coming out, and he can return back into the fight and be completely fine.
He's going to push back again. So Eco becoming harder to access. Now, Tunison is playing Gamble on the south side. He has got a bunch of people gathering Guy down there just to give him the food required, right? Berries as well. But for now, it isn't noticed. However, we mentioned earlier, with a predictable split of resources, it should become obvious quite quickly in a game like this to Afim where the economy has moved.
Should be obvious, but where is it? He's got access to the Pegasus as well, so he can have those flying scouts to get all across the map and prevent any of these sneaky shenanigans from happening. Another really great way to play around this sort of where is my opponent getting resources, is to send villagers around and build buildings on all the important gold mines, hunt packs, everything. Especially when you're playing Poseidon, if those buildings go down, you just get militia for it, and that's always nice.
Well played there. Forest fire as well. Whoa! What? He walked straight through it! Huge damage on the army. That's going to force a full migration of the eco away. Afim, he thought he found the secret passage. There's a passage to the afterlife there. Barely gets out. Mainly crossed and covered in third-degree burns. That is not a pretty-looking army. Oh my god.
That's. I mean, I've heard people complaining the forest fire is not very strong. I don't know exactly how much damage it did there, but it seemed like it did something.
Well, everyone's walking around right now looking like Two-Face. I think it done a bloody lot there. Valkyrie's now able to gap close onto the centaurs, so wiping out that. Has this game shifted at a critical moment when Tunison needed it most? Can he actually bite back? Because although the military count heavily favors Afim, the health bars do not.
No, and he's got no way to heal his units. He doesn't have Apollo. He doesn't have Temple of Healing. He doesn't have Restoration. He has Ceasefire, but that's not going to help him out with those health bars. And, I mean, the problem is, though, that population-wise, is still very much in favor of SuperAfim, and he's going to be heading straight back onto this gold mine, or at least maybe he's not. He's going to turn around and say, I want to be elsewhere, taking out the buildings first. Giving Tunison some breathing room in this game, but Tunison, he needs to get units out. He needs to get units out fast.
Another thing that could be interesting for Tunison is, like, as he fights like this, we are getting closer to another god power potential. I mean, if a forest fire is that good, we should look for another one. Obviously, some ways off, but beautiful thing is if you do want to stockpile up with the fighting that happens, you can get that favor quickly. It looks like instead we have got extra myth units coming in. So I guess Tunison's just going to try to keep raiding with Valkyrie until he's at a point where he can directly contest this. But this might be a problem. Centaurs, quick reactions from Tunison before it becomes a real issue. Still going to lose some eco, though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how quick your reaction is. If the centaurs stop chasing, maybe it does. But generally, like, those centaurs are just going to chase you down forever, and you're just going to lose everything back into the main base. You've got to get walls up. That's the only way. And there's just no time for Tunison to do that. He's in full scramble.
I mean, he needs all of his economy gathering, right? None of it can afford to be building walls. That's taken away from him trying to reach that equality in military count. We do have Axemen now starting to be spammed up by Tunison. Long way to go, though. This army, this blob, is still lethal. Yes, the health bars are low, but kind of like our discussion before the game. Why build defensive items if you have enough attack items and everything dies straight away? My effective HP doesn't matter.
Yeah. There's one question that I've got right now. If your opponent is trying to raid you with cavalry, and you're in the heroic age and you have a stable, why are you not getting some prodromus out? They're fast enough. They kill those raiding cavalry off beautifully. Life's great. But yeah, no, he's just seeing him trying to just chase around four cavalry with a blob of infantry units. He's kind of role playing as Egyptian in a way. He's the Egyptian main. Just sees spears. He's like, I can build spearmen. Get him with the spears.
For people watching later, there was in fact background music. It's just we got DMCA'd because it was Benny Hills on repeat. You know, there's only so much that you can play because right now this is a Benny Hills game. That is what, like 40 military chasing after 8.
This is what we like. This is stock standard Age of Mythology. This is the peak gameplay, ladies and gentlemen.
I feel like I'm watching like a 60s British sitcom where like policemen are just running back and forth across the screen looking for someone. He is at least starting to kill buildings, right? The best part is it's like short-term memory issues. SuperAfim chases, goes, what were we doing? Oh, kill the houses. Kill the buildings over here. Let's get rid of this. And this may be a big hit. The centaurs, they find it on the south side. So now, bigger problems here. Gold and food starting to get harassed out. There's going to be a counter dive coming in. The raided cavalry trying to do the same the other way. There's health bars looking low, but he needs to strip Greek for all it's worth, as it's still over a 10-villager lead now for the Greeks.
Yeah, we were talking about how messy these sort of Norse versus Greek games can get, and Tunison is trying to make it as messy as he possibly can to keep him moving through here, but he's also sustaining damage while he's inflicting this, and it's not going all too well, but with these throwing axemen out, with good micro, this could be a very, very big challenge for SuperAfim to overcome here, and he's got a nice choke point there to walk through as well. Great micro from Tunison.
From the forest
SuperAfim here is There's no forest fire
No,
remaining.
no,
It's
no,
gone.
no. I was gonna say, for the forest fires to the focus on axes, this man seems to hate wood a lot. I mean, this is ridiculous. So many of them. But the movement speed, Malice, it's a problem here. Once that poke starts to come in, once that ripple begins, you begin to lose it all. And now, because his focus is elsewhere, he's not tracking his cavalry anymore. He's so fixated on keeping these boys alive. I think Tunison is about to lose that one edge he's had, which is the ability to raid.
Yeah, and the population. There's 100 population difference right now.
Oh, he
now,
lost that a
KD.
long time ago.
It's all over for him.
Woo!
SuperAfim levels the series. Solid play here. Even with the ultimate forest fire, it's just not enough.
So what you're saying is Forest Fire needs a buff. There we go. I mean, I think that's the best Forest Fire I've seen all month, and still, it wasn't enough to really matter.
I don't even want a buff. I just want forest
More
fire
forest
on
fires.
walking woods.
I mean,
Like you might classify that as a buff, but that I just want that because it seems really cool. Like you run in with the trees, forest fire gives the trees like I don't know, let's say 30 seconds of lifespan,
yep.
and they're just doing AoE damage as they walk around.
No,
How
no, no.
sick would that be?
They lose health as they go, and then also they get a custom noise. So like the noise they make will just be ah ah ah. So they become the screaming woods. I mean, I'm
Right.
actually for that. The alternative is we just
Right.
make it so you can like dip all your weapons in the fire, and then all of your units just run around like giant demos waiting to destroy stuff. But we are going to be going to that Anatolia next, and we talked about a few possibilities here. I thought maybe Kronos could be on there. You mentioned Loki; it's going to be appearing. Little bit surprised we got Hades instead of Gaia, but I don't know. SuperAfim is like it's calibrating, right? Like game one with the Greeks didn't work out. Game two looking pretty solid. Now he's like, I'm in the zone. Let me keep playing the same Civ.
There's something really interesting that's been set up. We've only got 30 seconds to talk about it.
Yeah.
But with this pick from SuperAfim, he now has a really, really difficult choice moving into game number 4. Gaia, Isis, Thor, Cronus remaining. It's Hades' Loki on this map. Obviously, he wants to win on the Anatolia, but if he loses here, his road to victory is going to be very, very challenging.
Yeah, it's the Tundra, right? Like I'm looking at Tundra, I'm like, it's like critical he wins here because then he can potentially, I don't want to say afford to throw Tundra, but he has the malleability around Alfheim when you think of things like Isis and Gaia, either one feeling quite applicable there. So kind of crazy, right? We do get this sometimes at this point in the draft where we talked about the importance of leaving yourself robust. And the way he's drafted, essentially his final 2 picks fill a similar void, you know? They're doing a similar role.
Yeah. But to talk about this map for just a little bit. Hades versus Loki. Traditionally, Hades has got a slight upper hand in the matchup just on the fact that the archers are so good and Loki wants to build Hersa, which is just going to get cleaned by those archers. They're a hero infantry unit, so they are infantry, get countered by the archers. But on Anatolia, things start getting a little bit different because all the power spikes and everything leading into the center of the map, you don't actually have to kill the Hades. You don't actually have to run in and destroy him. You just have to kind of push him off all the gold in the center of the map. We'll have to wait and see what's going to actually happen. But there's so many little things to like be on the watch for in this one. Things like villagers attacking your berserk, building a dock on the corner of the map, right? That's a potential for the Hades player to get a cheesy advantage going on. Gold mines expiring and having us sort of push slowly into the center of the map until you've got one player mining here and one player mining here, and there's a bunch of hill forts and fortresses just like joining in on the fight and everything. It just culminates in a bunch of chaos. It's a really, really interesting one. I haven't seen Hades versus Loki on Retold in forever, so first time for me.
It's interesting the more I think about it as well as like Anatolia as a map, right? You said it's really good for Loki historically, but if you're worried about losing control on that center area, I wonder, you know, we used to see a little bit of 4 when the game released. Some players trying out the game were experiment with there. You do have that advantage of not having to run out of gold, right? You can play like the backline better. But I guess the thought process here is like, if you're at that point in the game and you haven't got central control on the gold, you've already lost anyway. So there's no point looking for this small percentile when you can actually flex for much better to Alfheim/Tundra. But we are just sorting things out, folks. So we're just trying to actually see if we can get the sound back. As we noticed, it was really important that we raised awareness on what it's like to not be able to hear things, but we realized we didn't like it. So we're going to try to get those back for you. If you are just tuning in, by the way, you did already miss one of the series. I definitely recommend checking out the VODs. Things will also get uploaded on the YouTube side. If you haven't, by the way, like I know I mentioned things like subbing, which helps a channel which doesn't have giant government money behind it, so we can't run like stadium events, but we can keep running events like this. If you want to do something free, go across to the Twitter, go across to the YouTube. Make sure you're following here as well, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be more myth tournaments down the line from EGC. I don't know. I think they've got a little bit of the myth bug.
Well, yeah, just a little bit of the old technical difficulties, hey?
So I've been on this before, right? Like, the longer you don't have tech issues, the bigger the tech issues are going to be. That's usually how it works. It's like an unwritten rule of esports broadcasts. Like I ran my own events and I got to day 2 and they're like, and nothing went wrong. I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
It's going to be something huge, like someone's going to drive a truck into the side of the building. So better to get them out of the way now instead of grand finals weekend.
We'll see if we can get the game queued up. I'm not exactly sure what our plan is at the moment, but
I hope so. We've got plenty of action still to cover, right? Because we're going to be doing this, and then we're going to be doing the lower bracket round 3, which is the winners from the series we've been casting today. So a little bit of an update on what's been happening, by the way, folks. Player did automatically qualify through to the next phase. Also, Grass qualified automatically through to the next phase. Player had something come up, some real life issues. Didn't probe details. Hope he's well. Hope everything's all right. But it means that Grass is chilling, ready to start killing. So with that in mind, though, we can have a look at the brackets because I think it's good to actually see how we've trended on this path here. In the lower bracket, like I said, we are a little bit later going to have that Ulysses versus Pegasus showdown as Ulysses was able to defeat his teammate 3-1 in the end. And Grass is now vibing, waiting, watching these games, already taking notes. A bit of an advantage there for him in some ways, but there's always that debate, isn't there? What's more important? Being able to watch your opponents or being warmed up? That's really what can matter. Some players thrive on the information, others thrive on the fingers, being nimble and active. And of course, when we hop back over the upper bracket next weekend, there are a lot of familiar faces because if you didn't catch it, imagine there's people going, where's Mister? Where's Recon? Where's Magic? Where's Rappel? They're dunking on it. All of them qualified through to the semi-finals of the winner bracket. Best of 5s up there as well, of course. And they will be featured next weekend on the final weekend of Age of Myth action here. Just one weekend to go and so much still to be decided.
That's going to be an absolutely epic weekend. The Mr. Recon repeat of Wallaloo, Magic Rappel. I don't know if we've actually ever seen them play a head-to-head game before, but I mean, they're both active, making content as well. They've got a big fan base getting built up, and it's gonna be fireworks. I watched Magic play a hour-long game against Pegasus like the day before the tournament, and Magic was losing for like 50 minutes of that game. Like he was behind, playing from behind, and just doing everything in his power to keep himself alive and going for it. He's a fighter, and I mean that's the type of person you want to be watching because it's going to be he's going to be in for the long haul, and it's going to be a fun time watching him trying to make it work.
It's hilarious because the moment you mentioned an hour-long game, my brain, like, if there are 2 people left in this tournament, you mentioned hour-long game, who would you think the 2 people are that you could potentially be referring to? Right, the most likelies.
Magic versus Recon. That would be a best of 5 that goes for about 6 hours.
Right? Like if we actually get winner bracket decider best of 5, Magic versus Recon, we might just have to decide to go live on Friday. Oh, they're so cozy with it as well. I mean, credit to Recon, actually, he's evolved a lot as a player from his Age of Empires 4 days. On 4, he just liked camping too much. Right? It didn't surprise me when I was just sitting there vibing one day, and I got a message through from Recon going, "Do you play Call of Duty? Do you want to play together?" I was like, "Ah, you're that kid that hides in the corner," because he was so comfortable doing it in 4. He loved this idea of being attacked. What's the term? Is it sadist or masochist that likes being beat? I forget
Sadist,
which.
right?
Sadist, yeah, yeah, a little bit sadist because that's something different. Yeah, a little bit of a sadist in him. He liked to take the beating and then return the pain later. But
Yeah,
Magic also, I mean, dude, you can't main Egypt for that many years and not be comfortable with the late game.
that's right. Magic's also got like this other side of him that not many people know. He is also like really big in the deathmatch scene. Deathmatch is a game mode where you start with like, I don't know, 15 billion resources and all the age ups happen instantly. So you basically just jump straight to the late game and literally just work on late game skills, which if you're just playing Supremacy, you'll notice most of these games only go 15 to 20 minutes. So if you've played like 100 Age of Mythology games, likely you've probably only had 2-3 games of practice in the actual late game, or maybe 10% of your games, maybe 20% of your games go late game. So you just don't get those muscles built up. So yeah, it's the complete kit of an Age of Mythology player.
You know what?
Like, it's just if he gets to use it,
Do you know what? I actually think there's a lot of value in it, not just because of the late game you arrive at. Do you know what that makes you much better at practicing, I think, is the age 4 conversion point, right? Which is something I know a lot of players who've tried to come across from different games or people who've tried to start playing Myth now struggle with, is the idea that when you first encounter these age 4 god powers, you just think the entire game is badly balanced, right? You're like, oh, well, this is dumb. That thing just blew up my base. And I always love kind of referencing Mist on this, quoting him on it, because I remember he said, it's just a matter of preparation. Like, if you get GG'd out by a god power on its own, you failed to prepare your base layout correctly.
Yeah, that's right. It's no different than jumping into a StarCraft 2 game and then dying to a like timing attack that, like a bunch of Void Rays walk into your base, fly into your base, and you go, oh, I don't have any counter air. It's like there's no difference to that than dying to an Age 4 God Power. You didn't prep for it.
All right, guys. So I'm just getting confirmation now, by the way. We are just going to quickly do a little bit of a tweak on the back end so that we can have sound for the next game. So apologies for the delays on this. You know how it is. New game releases. You want an esports straight away. We want to deliver it to you. But not everything lines up rather perfectly straight away. So short break. And when we return, we will continue this epic series. I have a feeling could go all the way to 5 games. Stay tuned and we'll find out. Ray coming in.
Oh, look at that picture-in-picture there. Look at that gold getting hit.
Token response here, but this is much worse than forest fire. This is awkward. The escape isn't going to be clean. Ulysses getting caught in an awkward position. Meanwhile, the raid on the other side just not hitting the same. So Tunison able to dodge most of the problem.
Pre-queuing Mythic Age is funny. There's no way he's affording that for like 15 minutes. That's so funny to me.
Are we going to get gold
under
powers?
the stronghold? Oof.
Tunison,
and
there we go.
And there's the counter.
Activates.
Is that the Wilbur was brought in?
Wait, it's coming in from a long range away, though. The stuns as well are controlling. The Stone Giant can't be accessed.
He needs to bring him into that little gap on top of all those because he's got splash damage with the pig. That'd be so crazy.
Tunison is dead.
Like, he's got nothing left.
The military. He's gone.
It equaled out. Because Mandor actually had more eco. This is gonna be an interesting fight.
Gonna start spinning. Not gonna be targeted straight away. Hearses are blocked from getting involved in the fight.
As
Spears are gonna pull over.
Kills all of this here made it through. That's terrible. This is why you have to micro the Axemen. They're all dead. The only thing that could kill them was those.
Yep. The Wadjets cannot get away from this. They flop dead. Only one left alive. Rappel.
Oh no.
Can he still win this fight? I mean, he's got military favor. I think it doesn't matter.
Coming.
Second wave arrives. The axe throws do need to be addressed soon, though. The Lions are baiting them, and the raiding cavalry are dodging the problem. So, about as good of a trade as Matador, the appropriate respect.
He's just trying to wall. Oh no.
It will buy just enough time, though. Yep. Much time wasted there. The Berserks are coming in, though. Axe throws are also here. I don't think this is a fight.
This man is all uniting. Look at he's bringing in the
wait. Take him to the forest. Look at the myth. Look at the favor. He has 170 right now.
There's no way he does that. There's no way he spends 125 on the forest.
He's gonna spread it out though. I think there's an overwhelming victory. The Berserks are just too damn good here.
They're just slicing through everything like butter. There's nothing left.
I mean, he's going berserk, he's going ham on this. Army is going to get wiped. There's just simply not enough spitters on the back line. A lot of time on the Valkyrie with the backline Myth units.
Again, he's using the Wadjets to hit the...
He's hitting the wrong thing. He's 100%
he's
hitting the wrong thing.
I don't understand. This always happens to poor Wadjets. Yeah, that one's dead to one Hesir. That's how dangerous is the Hesir getting on top and the Wadjets just die.
But the Axemen, they're begging to be hit right now. But once again, the spits are on the Valkyries.
The Spearmen were attacking the Axemen. The Axemen were attacking the Cav. This is all falling apart for Tunison.
I mean, he has numbers, but he's lost quality. But will he?
I don't know. He's got a lot of favor. And
there it is. Oh, tornado! And it follows perfectly into the army.
It's so good. Oh my God, we got cows.
Someone get a government relief package together because these guys need assistance.
Oh no.
So kind of ideal there. See if we can get some follow-up here. Nevian Ryan Laws are coming out.
Really good damage, though.
Wait, this one from the side. This roll can be big. Hits them all.
That's so good.
Chimera.
In the back.
I think the Chimera is coming off cooldown. I mean, it doesn't even matter. The army's going to evaporate before he even gets a chance to burn it all.
Look at Achilles in the back. He killed two Wadjet. Oh, one Wadjet left, and Achilles is going to finish that one too.
And turns out the Chimera is better than Wadjet as well. Suck on that one. Woo.
The Chimera is disgusting. Burnt it to a crisp.
This is over.
I guess.
We are probably about 10 seconds away.
Yeah, this is going to be rough in a second here.
From a GG. 15 seconds left in this Ancestors. He's actually staggered this perfectly. Ancestors will run out, and then he'll have his replacement ability because here it comes. Arcuses are about to go for a whirlwind ride.
Didn't even want to see it.
Is like, what, 4 now?
I do like the Arcus, though. I like these Arcus. Oh,
okay, that was a big hit.
That was huge, actually.
He needs a second, though.
Yeah, do another little volley like that.
Yeah, just punt it. He's backing up now. But the hero Thomas
are through. Sanders!
2 Satyrs going to be getting down. I think this is it. This is the break point. If he got another volley out and cleared the Mamillos, maybe. But he's going to lose all the Myth units. And that was his one hope, his one way of holding here. And it's dead. Yeah,
the Satyrs were like the one thing that was kind of clinging on to hope for him. But they're gone.
So we do have a move out onto the Ox's front side. Meanwhile, these Oracles are just getting every ounce of information.
Oh my God, no. This is not how this day ends. This is not how this day ends. It is. It's how the day ends. No. What did that just happen? No, Tiger. No, dude.
Do you know how I would rate that play? Oh God, that was horrible. The temple wasted. Caladria are just going to try to base the fire.
Yeah, dude, that was actually a lot of wasted shots.
He's still doing it. Like, he's A-clicking.
He's losing so much for nothing. What? Oh my God.
That was vile.
Going to be a lot. Just going to go for the dive here. I guess Grass may have sensed the Mythic coming in. Here's the Hailstorm.
This is an absolutely huge Tempest. No retreat available right now. All of those units here for Vortex going to be losing that attack speed. Raiding Cavalry getting around the back of those slingers there with a huge taunt from that rock time.
I mean, like right here. Could you imagine if the RC were on the other side? Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's like Grass needs to play first around here. Here's the Vidar. We don't see the Inferno just yet. It should be coming in as soon as the retreat. Here it is. No reaction from Vortex. Everything's going to die.
Well, that was a good usage there. That was awesome. They're all gone. How does he deal with this? He just needs a ton of hoplites out.
Ooh, the Shockwave right on top of the Carnivora again. Oh boy. This just isn't looking good for Pegasus now.
Welcome back to Genesis Retold. Apologies about that, folks, but I think we have resolved it. Like some beautifully, firmly, freshly ironed clothes, everything is going to be smooth and wrinkle-free because I believe we are ready to hop into map number 3. It's going to be Anatolia between the Fox Boys and SuperAfim, this time in the blue, taking to Hades, the Greek trifecta he's looking to complete.
And in the red color playing as Loki. His name is Tunison. It's going to be a tough one right now. Anatolia, this is a water map, hybrid map, very, very different to any of the sort of land maps. Whether fishing is really worth it or not, you absolutely do have to kick the game off with going for fish. And then after that, where do you go? You go for a town center, you go for land aggression, you go for tech. These questions have not been answered at the top level to complete certainty just yet. Especially in some of these weird matchups you don't get to see quite a bit. A lot of the times we've been seeing lots of Gaia getting picked here, Kronos getting picked here, Greek getting picked here. Norse, a little bit rare, KP. Have you seen much of this one just yet?
Not since launch week when Viper was trying to just main, I think it was 4 at the time, and he just kept for some reason queuing Anatolia. So yeah, no, not many like highly skilled players have ever been able to witness whip out the Loki here. In theory, it can be good for those timing attacks, but it's kind of weird. It almost feels like you have to send it down the center. You can't focus on the water, which creates a new conundrum, right? Like, you know, if you're going that early in the game, you need to deprive the food. It's not enough to deprive gold because, especially with a spawn like this for a Fim, look at it. Parked behind his TC. Very hard for you to try and raid and pressure him off of this gold.
Yeah, there's almost no opportunity to actually raid on the land here. You've got sentinels, towers, watchtowers can come through. I don't see Tunison going that route. There is the idea of sort of fast heroics here through Njord, get Walking Woods to take down docks with the Kraken coming through, the free Kraken to help out. You'd have to be a little bit worried about the Skylar, but there's definitely a route to go down. Both players choosing to go for opposite sides of the water to kick the game off does mean that the first free myth unit that comes out of your dock will be on the opposite side of the water, which does, I would say, give a slight equality to the whole situation, where it's like, well, my Skylar beats your Kraken. It's not on that side of the water. It doesn't matter, right? So it's going to be probably, I would imagine, both the water sides of the water kind of just get traded equally moving forward. It's my guesstimation on it, but who knows?
Yeah, well, Fim has set up to at least trying to contest on that north side, but as you said, that wasn't the first dock, so it will be a bit tricky from that perspective. He's at least trying to minimize the opportunity for Tunison to spread out, get maximum fish here. Problem is, like, this timing, there is still room for Tunison to set up his own dock on the south side, if he so chooses.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking for a relatively quick classical age. I think you can get, I don't know if he's got 2 docks on the left side. I think you can get about a 5-minute classical age, so 4-minute advance time, and get 2 docks up as Loki, but it looks like he's going a slightly different route. SuperAfim as well, going through Athena, very, very stock standard advance times as well.
We've
a lot of villages on gold.
Yeah, Tunison's gone for, I think, a second dock now, but it looks like he might also be setting up a proxy base in the center. Yeah, so 4 temple, house there as well. Nice blocker to the potential for like a second TC grab, right? You are up against Hades, a faction that's very good at taking those secondaries, and with all the gold being in the center, that would almost feel like a GG point for Loki.
Yeah, totally. It's if SuperAfim were to grab that town center, that gives him the gold, that gives him some wood there. There's no hunter around it. That's not really a big problem. It's just the fact that he gets secured nearly 2 gold mines with a town center on that spot. So I like this decision, but there is the town center on the left side, which honestly SuperAfim can go for as well if he really wants to. But it's not going to be a thing that happens anytime soon. Faults of Herb is pre-queued with. It's just got he's got 2 villages on favor, so it's going to get it pretty soon. But double military academy makes a lot of sense here. You got to open up with hoplites. You got that boosted food economy because you've got the fish. Your opponent's going to be wanting to use that as well. What's he going to make? Ursa, that's countered by hoplites. Raiding cavalry, that's countered by hoplites. Berserks, that's countered by hoplites. Herban, you're not building Herban events infantry here. This makes a lot of sense for SuperAfim to open like this. Tunison, he's going to have to be paying attention here, and he's probably going to have to make some longhouses and go into those throw and axemen.
Never a Heimdall boy. I mean, in fairness, in this game, I think in particular because the healing springs, it's so important to have for Seti. Because now, with this proxy base, like in theory, the idea is really cool here. You set up a healing springs near your enemy's base, and you just are able to trade very efficiently. We haven't seen it used just yet. A little bit surprised. I feel like if you have to retreat from this area, have to give over these buildings, it's an overwhelming edge given to the Greeks.
Yeah, and the Warriors always said, if I have to retreat, then my opponent now has that area. But you're absolutely right that there becomes a moment where retreating is not an option. So you may as well put it down and give you that edge.
So it's just going to be left to poke it down. So I don't know if this is like part of the plan. Maybe it's an age-free rush behind this. So you just create the buildings to bait and buy time, right? He's contesting both sides of the rivers here. But it does feel a little bit weird, right? Like, the more I look at this, it has to have been a bait. There's no way he expected this timing to work if he didn't commit the healing springs.
Yeah, well, he's losing the entirety of the middle of the base, right?
Yeah.
In the end, all this is 100x wood. I can't remember exactly what a Great Hall costs. And 200-ish resources on the temple. So you're losing like 300, 400 resources just on the middle there going down.
Yeah.
That's not the end of the world in terms of your ability to win a game. So he could be doing anything behind this. And I like that he's made the decision to just get himself out of throwing Axeman. And the question is, when is he going to be able to take a fight, though?
Yeah. I mean, the other conundrum I'm looking at here is look at what SuperAfim's doing. This is not a defensive Hades game at all. He's already got the Toxite alongside the Hopate scaling up. He's looking for an all-in timing. Now, the throwing Axeman should, in theory, have, I don't want to say a field day, but a good time here. The issue might be in the blobbing. Like, you know, yes, there's only 135 wood here or there, but it's at least resources you've burnt. The only upside being you did build it with military, right? Compared to other civs that would have lost economy from building those instead.
Yeah, there's this one other little angle as well that can catch anything, any civ off guard. It's your opponent, or the Greek player, Egyptian player, Atlantean player, not so much the Norse player because you kind of know what's going on with Norse, but banking favor. And we're seeing that happening right now for SuperAfim. At any point here, he can just go, all right, let's grab 2-3 Minotaurs. My opponent doesn't have enough heroes, and we'll just add them into the army, and then the fight is going to go heavily in my favor. So you've always got to have that in the back of your mind.
And flip side of it is, like, if you don't do something to force the Minotaurs, you could have back-to-back restorations as the game goes on, right? Which balances out favorably against his healing springs.
Yeah, SuperAfim is just cleaning everything up at the moment. He's taking some light raids, but, you know, honestly, Tunison not really getting all too much damage done in this game and sustaining a lot of damage here. But, you know, it's double goldmine in the main base, so he's still got some time to muster up a really, really scary army. I haven't seen a whole lot of 2 goldmine games, Norse versus Greek. The one that comes to mind is that game that Rappel had against Recon on Ghost Lake for Wololo, and it was a messy game to say the very least. I have a feeling we're going down that route.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, we're clearly going H3, Njord or Bragi. So he does actually choose to go for Bragi. I wondered if Njord would have been good here because of the outskirts control, right? Like, he has good vision there. He could summon the Walking Woods and then hit the economy, but he needs to take that direct fight, right? Like, we've seen that SuperAfim has bulked up big time. We've got additional text coming through to enable that pressure in the second age. So flaming weapons at this point becomes an absolute must.
Yeah, well, there's a very... Oh, he's not going for it. I was going to say there's a very, very simple, not simple, but maybe a slight hidden counter for flaming weapons in Apollo. It's kind of like the shifting sands play where your opponent uses flaming weapons and you shifting sands away. You can use that Apollo underworld to retreat away. We're seeing Aphrodite, which is more of like the confident player saying, doesn't matter if you're going to click flaming weapons on me. I'm just going to curse you. I'm going to be able to defend. There's no point at which you're going to be able to muster up an army which is going to beat me. So it's all good. I got restoration. I got everything. We'll have to wait and see if this is going to work out. What I want to see here from Tunison is full pop, heavy upgrades, and then fight. All too often do I see Bragi comes through and you go, oh, it's time to take a fight. It never works. Get full pop first, get your upgrades, and then flaming weapons and clean the army. I can't stress that enough.
No, it's a fair point, especially when you consider small details like Sarissa actually add up very early at this stage before you've got all the tech unlocks of H3. So it would be a difficult one. You've got a little bit of a monkeyage versus lion on both sides here. Fight is going to come in with the clash. Flaming weapons has been activated. Gonna have to shuffle away from this, but no restoration being used. This is an awkward retreat out of Afim. Curse finally gonna be there. Looks like he's gonna try to maybe retreat away from this still, but you have to fight. You have no choice here. Shunt comes in. Restoration gets popped. And this heal with the Nemean line coming in, if he rolls that back line, that's gonna give the gap close now. So he's able to overwhelm the boar, being targeted down. Could be rippling over. Not the best of micro there from Afim. Instead, he chooses to retreat here. Flaming Weapon still has about 15 seconds left. Nemean line is still alive. The front line is dead for the Norse, and this allows him to charge forward. Nemean line moves in, the Minotaur as well. This fight looking harder and harder as the seconds edge on for Tunison.
Honestly, that fight went much better for Tunison than I thought it was going to go. SuperAfim he just started walking. He was obviously waiting for the heroic age, but in his little mini retreat to get the 10 seconds, 15 seconds he needed to get to the heroic age, he took so many losses to kick that fight off.
Yes.
And once the curse came in, I mean, the damage was already done, and he was able to kind of equalize to some degree. But now the flaming weapons is gone. Healing Spring still in the palms of Tunison. You can throw that down at some point. I want to get you started on that. Because imagine if you had it there.
I really thought he'd see the restoration and go, oh yeah, I've got a heal as well. Like, that's the moment, man. You put everything behind that. Bodies on the floor, flaming weapons. Like, that's your go time. And I feel like we see this so often. It's almost like Healing Spring syndrome, right? Like, the longer the game goes, the harder it is for you to identify when you should use it. I almost want to say, if you haven't gotten in timing in the first 6 minutes, just drop it at home, right? Because I've seen too many games end with it still never being cast.
Yeah, we can always save it for next game, so it's all good.
Oh, that's true, right? Like, he had another... Yeah, he's got 4. Just using the 4 game.
Yeah, that's right.
Bros help bros, right? Like, 4 and Loki get along like a house on fire.
Yeah. Well, KP, flaming weapons off the table. Greek army coming into its own right now. This is where the Greek army gets really, really strong. Heroic age, gets access to pacifist, peltast, heavy upgrades. Gold mines, they're going to start moving into the center of the map. Those home gold mines are going to be gone in the next minute or two. So this is where you've got to either decide, as the Norse player here, we have to just put everything into a big attack and try and win here, or get very, very set up on a second gold mine with hill forts. And it looks to me like Tunison, he's setting up a hill fort on that gold mine already. Will it be enough to hold here against the might of +1 range, Toxite, plus the Peltas and everything else? Great raids coming in. SuperAfim also needs to be getting a fortress up and defending himself, otherwise he's going to get outmaneuvered by the speedy Loki army.
He's trying to bait him into a fight. He has the favor for another restoration. He hasn't been pumping myth units, so you could just dive. With this many Hoplite, you could actually quite efficiently take out the fort. The problem is the delay would probably lead to a raid from Tunison. And I think that's what's keeping Afim from committing.
Right, there's no rush, right? There's never a rush for Hades. He's the late game king. He has all of the advantage, but you definitely don't want to give the Loki player another opportunity. You can see that Hell is clipped up right now, or Tunison wants Hell. He doesn't have the gold just yet, but he's about to go there. And a Nidhogg, pretty good. There's 4 heroes. They can shoot up. All 4 heroes can shoot up. But you snipe those heroes, Nidhogg, that deals with that blob that you keep talking about. Very, very good. Very, very efficiently. Gets that area of effect, fire damage, plus burning, plus the dive through. All of that stuff can be very, very strong.
There is a long wait to hold here, though, and that is a big investment. And considering we are at critical mass, even with the settlement now up, you're kind of reaching that point where either Fim is going to commit or he's going to age himself, right? And I feel like we're at the commitment point here.
Well,
Oh, that guy is. I mean, give me a knife,
he's
I'll take
let's
this
go.
down.
Let's go. I mean, this is really smart from Tunison. This is something that I've seen Mr. do really, really nice. It's like when he's advancing and he goes these tech plays, little mini raids, just a couple of units, just running around the map, just putting pressure onto your opponent, distracting, and that gives you that extra little bit of time to say, well, you're distracted, you're not putting pressure onto me, I'm getting a free mythic age through here. But this is 2 town center decided from SuperAfim at this point, which means he's got more population to play with, means his army's going to be a little bit bigger. Can he deal with this Nidhogg coming through? It's going to be in here in the next 15 to 20 seconds. Hillfort's going to go down. It's going to be tough.
And well, here's the tougher part. The restoration wasn't forced, right? If you at least try to probe a fight there, you can force the restoration commitment underneath the fort. Yep. And then Nidhogg doesn't have to worry about that element, right? Now you have this awkward situation against Max, Toxite, the hero as well, where there is going to be that sustained heal on everyone. Meanwhile, Tunison, I don't know if he thinks that Healing Springs is like a bank, and if you hold on to it, it gains interest, but we still don't have that God Power being committed.
I mean, he's going to have to be Nidhogg, Healing Spring, and go here, KP.
Here comes the dragon. Backstab comes in. Healing Springs gets committed, though. Sorry, not his. I wish it did. The restoration comes through. Burn's going to be there, but all of the damage is offset here. Finally, it starts to tick through. Maybe restoration was a little bit early. Toxicate in trouble. Still half HP on the dragon. And I think this is a firm hold for Tunison. He doesn't need a Healing Springs. Healing is overrated. If you kill quickly, no one survives.
Now, who needs healing when you got a mighty dragon just flying over there? Those those Toxicate just did not react. They're just like, oh, it's Skyrim, there's a dragon. Oh, let's just hope that the Dragonborn comes and saves us here.
The Burns are in again. I mean, he's trying to garrison to save his life. But the army's so big, it could easily take this down. He goes after the economy. It's a Greek barbecue. They didn't realize that they're the ones being put on the Spitfire, though. Woo.
He can't even garrison all into this fortress. His units popping out, and they're not going to be flying into the corner of the map. You can use that to take out fishing economy now at very little HP. Fire Giants in as well as 160 favor for Tunison. He's going to be getting Mountain Giants and Jotun here. No, he doesn't have Jotun, but he's going to be able to get Mountain Giants through.
The crap! Okay, that's it. Wave the white flag, go to game number 4. At this rate, this man's going to have a second burning weapons before he ever uses the Healing Springs. He's made a point here. Tunison says, I do not need it, okay? He looks at the British healthcare system, the NHS says, that's overrated. All right, this is full capitalist society. And in a capitalist society, there's no bigger gold grabber than a goddamn dragon.
And it's just so good. Fire Giants as well. This has been such a well-executed timing after the chaos that happened beforehand. More Mountain Giants coming in to clean up these buildings. They are really, really strong. You can also get that the rock, not the rock giant tech, but the big fist tech to get himself a whole bunch more HP on those bad boys.
They don't need it. They
don't need it.
He doesn't need a Healing Spring. They're not dying, okay? I don't know how it ended up just so clean as that, but execution, pitch perfect. Tunison, in the end, knew exactly what he was doing. He finds himself now up to match point. One more win, and he will throw his teammate into hell. Can he do it in full? Are we going the full distance? We mentioned this game was important for his draft. Actually, no, wait, didn't we say it was important for Hades? So he's in trouble now.
Yeah, this is where things get very, very challenging.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to see Isis versus Thor. We're either going to see Isis versus Cronus, decent matchup, or Isis versus Thor, decent matchup. But Gaia versus Thor, Gaia versus Cronus, that's a challenge. That is a challenge. I think there is an option. I think SuperAfim gets what he wants here. There is an option for Gaia. We'll talk about it if we see it or not. But Isis versus Thor, this is still a challenging matchup because Thor has got that Dwarven Armory opener that's very, very strong KP. You get 4 villager advantage to kick the game off, and you just ride that for the rest of the game. Plus all the extra Dwarven mines that come through mean there's not really ever going to be a gold starve on the table.
And I think the thing that I quite like about Thor in this particular matchup, you can just kind of get away with spamming a little bit early into the hearses because I feel like Isis's out has to be to rely on those god units, right? Because if you try to play your blob approach, the problem is that economy scaling you talked about, where you get rewarded for actually trying to be aggressive, getting into your aggro attacks by getting those extra dwarves. So that gives you an eco lead that means that in a matchup where you might have been out blobbed, because Egypt are the best at doing it, you keep up. And if we're being totally fair, I wouldn't say Norse is that far behind. Like, if you had to rate the civs on their ability to Zerg, I feel like it's Egypt and then Norse.
Yeah, I mean, especially Thor, with the bonus armor upgrades you can grab towards the end of the game. If things do end up getting there, while Isis has the extra population, in the end, you've got extra armor upgrades on the other side. That basically equals out there in terms of actual late game bonuses. Who knows if we're even going to see it? It's Tundra. Lots of hunt in the main base means Thor doesn't need to leave his base, but so too does Isis not need to leave her base. And timings that you used to on, say, like a map like Blue Lagoon end up becoming even faster. So this is going to be a very, very precise game, I think, where maneuverability is going to be very, very king.
I think also the cool thing is 4 can play into that maneuverability, right? You go Freya, you scale a little bit of cavalry. That also feels like a really nice adjustment to the Sphinx play that Isis is renowned for, right? You can mirror out, block out, and Valkyries do get bonus damage against those myths. So, I wonder, is there maybe some sort of infantry approach SuperAfim can go towards? Like Isis sometimes likes the 2TC idea, but...
There is one idea with Isis that honestly I think the Sphinx has just been flavor of the month and everyone has forgotten there's another minor god there, Anubis.
True.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure Anubis is insane against Norse. You get 3 monuments, you get a whole bunch of Anubites, you make a whole bunch of spearmen, and when you come to the fight, your opponent's like, wow, you've got a whole bunch of spearmen, let me make throwing axemen. And then suddenly you've got 6 Anubites just mowing down your throwing axemen, and the spearmen are just going, la, 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 la.
I mean, it's a fair point, right? Like, the spears should be able to address the Valkyrie. I think the other thing that's cool there is the Anubites can just leap away. Oh no, you've pinned me. No, you haven't at all. It's easy to forget in this matchup that it can be good, because usually when you're thinking about Norse, you're not thinking about as much walling occurring, even for 4, right? They usually just kind of chill, they're fine. So I wouldn't mind it. I like that idea, man. And I think it's important that he finds the aggressive tone here. I don't like the idea of him having to foot the bill of a aggro all in from 4 around like 15 minutes. So we'll have to see. It's time to hop into the 4th in this best of 5 elimination series. Are we going the full distance to try and get us there? SuperAfim has whipped out the Isis in the blue.
And his opponents today are going to be attempting to do something that the Mister could not. He's not playing Loki, though. He's playing Thor, so slightly different. His name's Tunison.
Oh, we are going to be on Tundra, so fairly open map. Gold spawns actually looking pretty good for Tunison here. Check that south side cluster. I don't want to say 2TC, Tunison on 4 shouldn't be really thinking about that immediately first, but even in terms of reaching these resources, look how easily wallable this is. The hunt as well. Like, this is a very good spawn for someone who could be forced to take a defensive opening.
Totally. A 2-town center in the matchup against Norse is doable. It's not terrible. Idea is you grab the second town center, you go into some barracks units, you play some defense while the Norse player panics and tries to all in you, and you try and hold that, right? That's the dynamic if you want to go that way. But more often than not, we're seeing Egyptian players say, my advantage right in this game is that I get to spam units much quicker than you do. So let me go for a barracks, 1 town center play, deny second town centers coming up from the North side of things, and just say, now what? When are you going to be able to beat me? Answer for the Norse player is generally when they can catch up on population, but it's easier said than done.
I wonder, like, maybe Tunison just leans with his economy south side because it's easily defendable and then goes to the 1TC all in then. I mean, I think we mentioned the idea of, like, needing to think different than kitty cats here, right? Because I think this has to be Valkyries, right? I'd be very surprised if we didn't get Freya in this matchup for Tunison.
Yeah, I'd like the Freya call just on, not just for the Valkyrie, but also for that Cess from the upgrade that I'm frothing on it because I just think it really helps offset one of the biggest weaknesses in the Norse kit, which is Hersa just die really, really quickly to Axemen. If I get an extra 15% HP on that, they're staying alive and they're going to be able to get 1 or 2 extra hits on a myth unit in a fight. And that's the difference between a myth unit surviving and doing tons of damage and dying. That being said, Tunison here, he's still got that healing spring from last game that he needs to use. So maybe we're going to be seeing, maybe we're going to be seeing some foresight here.
I mean, to put on the flip side, Tunison just looks at that last game and goes, man, healing spring sucks. So bad, I don't even need it to win. Might just be tempted to go to the mobile healing instead. We are getting close to the moment of truth, though. I'm trying to think, like, what is the win condition here for SuperAfim? Because we mentioned the idea of a few strategies. The Anubites seemingly forgotten about. I'm going to be real with you. I think they're going to be forgotten about here again. If he does go the Sphinx route, does that kind of just shuffle him into a 2TC strategy?
Well, we saw SuperAfim doing, well, I saw the end of it, of SuperAfim going against Mister's Loki. Was it Loki? I think it was Loki. Playing Sphinx classical army, right? So we've seen SuperAfim want to go that way, and he's going past. And we are actually seeing not Freya, Forseti.
Ooh, okay. So yeah,
Oh, he's got
taking
2
the
healing
three.
springs this game.
So there we go. Yeah, so they just stockpile over. Obviously, that's how it works.
That's right.
But this also means he's taking, I don't want to say a more static approach. It's just going to be an infantry-focused approach, right? Because you have got Hall of Fames, which is a really big deal. Should allow you to kind of set the pace on the map, especially if you think that SuperAfim will have to come out for things like economy early.
Yeah. One thing that it does give you is, while your Herser are not going to be as beefy, they will get that speed from the Hall of Fames tech you need to Forseti. And that'll allow them to chase those Sphinx around a little bit easier and defend. But like you're saying, I honestly prefer the Valkyries to defend against those Sphinx. It's an interesting call here. We'll see if Tunison can make it work.
Oh, wow, look at that. Egypt being very revolutionary here. I've never seen this before. Kitty cat strats every day of the week. So we are going to have that mobility versus, I mean, it is mobility just in a different form. Maybe part of the thought process here for Tunison is the chip potential. Like when you're in an Egyptian matchup, you do have to fear that healing. Like compare it to Greeks. Greeks do have restoration, but it's not consistent, right? Whereas for these guys, for Egypt, they just scale priests. They're always going to have a way to kiss the boo-boos better.
And that's some great relics there for SuperAfim as well. He gets that Pandora's box relic, and if it's not bad enough that Sphinx are only costing 18 favor, you take 20% off, and cheapest chips, you're basically making centaurs, except they're Sphinx. They're cats. Kind of insane.
So cats.
I don't. That is
than horses.
120 gold and 15 favor. Are you kidding me?
Bargain. I'll take 5.
I haven't made a relic tier list, but I guarantee you Pandora's box is like S tier, S over S tier, you know? S plus,
no. You know how like over the S tier you have to have like a unique name for it? You just say, you call it absolute must for crazy cat ladies.
That's right. Well, here's the thing, right? Tunison, he's playing against Sphinx, he's playing against Spearman, he's got to sit in his main base. I have a theory here that if the Norse player can actually get a settlement, a town center up, it starts going more into the like kind of advantage or the panic of the Egyptian player who's already having to deal with being an economic disadvantage in the matchup. But it's impossible to get a settlement, right? Because the army is going to be too active. If you go for it, they're just going to push, and you're gonna lose that settlement and die. Village center, however, in a random location on the map, kind of like proxy village center in the very east corner in a tournament game. Never going to spot it. Never going to think about it. Crazy ideas.
I mean, you say that, but like you get paranoid when you see raiding cav. You're like, maybe he'll just happen upon it by chance. Love what he was doing with the Sphinx there, by the way. Just laming the back deer so that it starts to decay. It's slow, but it at least takes some longevity away. Because like the biggest concern you have when you're up against 4 is this guy's just going to stay here, right? Like that's the whole PowerPoint with the mines, is they can just refuse to come out onto the map. They can refuse to budge. And you want to try and take away from that every way you can.
Exactly. This is a big difference between what would happen against, say, a Loki player or an Odin player or a Freya player is once Thor gets Heroic Age and he's going there, he's got 600 food in the bank, he's got that gold coming. Once he gets Heroic Age, he gets his first Dwarven Mine. The second Dwarven Mine, a little bit more expensive, but you know, by the time he's expired on that second gold mine, he's gonna have full pop. And then he can move out of his base and flaming weapons you, and then your army gets absolutely demolished. Full pop versus full pop with flaming weapons. It's not even close. And then you get another Dwarven Mine and another one, and life is good if you're a Thor player.
Except in this game, to balance things out, he's going to have to use a second healing spring, so he's had to save up for that instead. It's the only way to work.
Well, he has used it, though, so that's at least a start.
Very early. That is a lot of gold for a Fim. What?
Well, we were talking about...
Is he trying to buy our admin? What is this?
Like that? He's trying to buy our admin. Oh, you've lost me here.
1,500 gold
dropping 2 town centers at once, buying food and going to the next stage. Always an
Back-to-back
option.
Age, maybe? Maybe? No. He
Well,
wouldn't
Nefty's
back-to-back
is
Age
in.
us. Well, Nefty's is on the
in.
way, but it's a lofty amount of gold to be sitting on. He's not investing anywhere. This does feel like it was just a misadjustment of the economy, right? Like, I'm trying to think what he could be leaning into here. I mean, you are gold heavy no matter what. Okay, there. The classic looks at economy. Okay, we can afford everything, boys. He was waiting to see what he'd need.
Oh, he didn't actually spend it, right? Like it's not in his bank anymore, but he's
He
throwing it
queued up
into
some
building.
upgrades.
He's
Makes
just-
up for
yeah,
some
he's
for it,
queued
right?
Just
Axemen
queued
as
up
well.
his units.
Yeah.
So
It was just delay. I think he wanted to see what Tunison's
Yeah.
comp was before committing
Yeah.
resources.
exactly, yeah. It's an interesting thing because we always when you're learning to play RTS games, like, a lot of the first things you get told is just keep your resources low. Just keep your resources low. But in a way, if there's nothing you have to worry about and you're playing towards a certain point in the game, spending those resources or not spending those resources one way versus another way can be just as important as getting rid of them as quick as you can.
It's also with a civ like Egypt, your production rates are pretty aggressive, right? So like you can afford to be a little bit delayed because we mentioned in another game, this is a Zerg civ, right? The quality of the units sucks. So that means the counter is even more important. And that's the balance point for it, right? It's like you get them out quickly, they're not as good.
But I do like the composition which Tunison's going for. There's not really any slingers being made. Well, there's 1 or 2. Not really many slingers being made for SuperAfim, which does allow those throwing axemen to get all of the advantage. And KB, all this is going to come down to is, can Tunison catch SuperAfim's army out and get this flaming weapons to work? Or will SuperAfim be able to position his army in a way that it's just impossible for Tunison to ever get a good flaming weapons off? And he's just going to hold the map and be in a good spot. Alternatively, are we just going to see a standoff for the rest of the game as Tunison just keeps spamming dwarven gold mines and SuperAfim goes, when do I get to fight you?
Well, apparently the hearse is going to lead them on the path to death. He's edging on the dive, right? But he knows that there's a risk to this. The good thing about trying to make this dive happen is when flaming weapons comes out, you retreat, right? You have so far to retreat. That's the issue that Tunison has right now. You want to be using flaming weapons when you're over halfway towards a Fim's base, because then if he retreats, he's leaving something of value behind.
This army is very, very scary here for SuperAfim. He is walking very, very far in, but look at the Sim City here, which Tunison's built up. It's beautiful. There's no way in. There's just no way in. He can't do anything just yet. There's a scary thing here that SuperAfim can do to punish this, though. We're talking a lot about how you have to prepare in advance to deal with Age 4 God powers. Thoth, Meteor, Sim City, that's going to be a disaster waiting to happen.
The
We'll have to wait
scary
and see.
part, though, is if he tries to go. And it feels like
Yeah.
he's edging for that because trolls are being built. This is really important. Trolls leverage those choke points better than almost any unit you can access at this point before because of the slash damage to those giant boulders.
Well, this is the point which Tunison's been waiting for. I think he's done this perfectly. It's all going to come down to this move right now. He's just going to be charging in. Answers the clips coming in.
Got the rocks. Can he get the hits, though? No, he wastes them on the mummies. So the big blob hasn't been attacked yet. He's diving in with the flaming weapons, trying to overwhelm the north side, but Tunison's position in this fight, is it going to be good enough from here? Armies both being whittled away at, but I think that the mummies on the backside may have just baited him a little here. It splintered the fight too much, and as a result, it looks like it's an overwhelming victory for Afim. Oh, wow.
I don't know what I just watched there, KP. Tunison
watched
just
Autocast,
like
mate.
A-moved. Tunison just A-moved his entire throwing, not A-moved, he just basically movement commanded his throwing axeman in that fight for like 5 seconds. And they all melted. It's literally just walked into axemen. They're a ranged counter infantry unit and he movement commanded them for like 5 seconds and he just lost them all.
His brain got auto-chowed. He's like, whoa, you've got an axe, I've got an axe. I've been throwing them my whole life. I didn't realize I could use them in melee. But, I mean, it wasn't just that. The way it began also just awkward, right? I think what happened is Tunison, he auto-attacked with the boulders, right? This is, by the way, why you want to toggle that off. He wasted that huge shot when Afim was blobbed on the south side. I think he then tried to shift the trolls and get some troops there to defend, but he'd already clicked something with the throwing axemen. So you almost had these double mistakes that just led to this overwhelming victory, right? Like, yes, Afim had to use the Ancestors. Yes, he had to use the Eclipse, but just as big of a deal, actually bigger of a deal here is the fact that Tunison committed the flaming weapons and didn't get an immediate victory out of it.
Yeah, all roads were leading to that fight, and you've got to be aware that the damage that needs to come through, you don't need to move. You don't need to miss. You basically need to set the position up before the fight starts. That's what's important here as from the North side. If you get sprung on, then life's really challenging. You see this all the time with players like Recon, Mr. Rappel, Magic. They're pre-moving their army before the fight starts, forming like a ball of Purser in one side, raiding cavalry in the other side, throwing axemen in a different position. Kind of like, yeah, your formations just really, really matter in Age of Mythology, but you have to do it kind of manually, and that's the difference between those elite mythology players and that level down at the moment, it seems. But
it's also the distance of clicking, right? Like, I think
Yes.
Tunison's idea kind of makes sense, but he overclicked. So
yeah,
then when something else happens to distract him, he's not addressing the real issue of the formation. And now as a result, I mean, the big blue blob remains blue. Tunison has done a great job of catching up there, right? His military is rebulked. He's got pretty hard into the throwing axemen. And if he does attack with them in these fights, it is a big problem because considering that I think SuperAfim is maybe like 40% slinger.
I haven't even seen.
Actually,
He's got a
even
lot of
40%?
slingers. Slingers, they're an interesting unit. They're really, really good when you've got just a couple of them. But the more you get, the more opportunity you give your opponent to kind of hard counter them with like a whole bunch of raiding cavalry to sweep in and kill them all. If you've got like 10, 15 to like snipe off all those throwing axemen in a fight while everything else is kind of dealing with it, they become really, really useful. But in this situation, you're absolutely right. Tunison bulk throwing axemen here versus bulk slingers kind of flips that kind of theory on its head. Though there actually isn't that many slingers now. I'm looking at the army.
Think, yeah, he got 15-ish, and then mostly like he's laid it in with spears and about 10 axemen. So it looks like he was prepped for the cavalry switch that he was
this could be good for
anticipating.
Tunison. It could be good for Tunison. You never know.
Yeah.
But I think what's not good for Tunison right now is SuperAfim's on 3 town centers. And
Yeah.
I'm not so concerned about the economy. Even though the villager count is in favor of SuperAfim at the moment, I think if you check the graph at 16 minutes post-game, you probably see that Tunison's probably still got the gold, the economic advantage. But the population for SuperAfim, 220, 150 pop of military versus 117. That's a big deal.
Now, I'm wondering if he can just pivot into the Hoodman. I feel like the problem now is you are getting countered by the camels, right? The camels can actually beat onto your back line, but they're also going to beat your front line. We're very hard in Hersia, which is great for building up this favor. There's not really many units for you to hit into, right? You've essentially got 2 Sphinxes here, so it feels like almost an impossible fight here for Tunison. He speed runs to the backside. Choke points, the rocks are going to be hurled, but Afim not going to fall for the bait there.
Yeah, I say this quite a bit, but I almost think that
What is
I kind of wish that this was a Osiris come through. That's gonna be huge. Actually,
what
what is happening here?
Hello? Okay, it's okay, guys. It's just the trash unit. Like, it's all the peasants. Let them die. Finally realizes it and turns around, but the trail hold trolls. Trolls from the hills. My words are gone because of what we just watched there. That runaway somehow not ultimately punished, and now once again. The Giants on the backside, the Trolls, they're not able to get those good shots out. So the big chunk, the big splash of units that could have been hit there, the opportunity is missed. The militaries have at least been reset, but the position is looking better and better for Afim. He's halfway to age 4. He's edging this fight in a way that Tunison can't get an overwhelming victory, and all he now needs to do is hold.
Yeah, holding Osiris through, and this is always a difficult thing for Norse to deal with. Son of Osiris, 18 range on that bad boy, doing a boatload of divine damage. The only real way to counter it is get a surround, which not going to work against a player of SuperAfim's level very often. Alistair, you need Mythic Age for that, or Frost, he doesn't have Frost. So this is going to be really, really challenging for Tunison moving forward. not only that, there's like, oh, no, I'm not looking at the wrong favor board there. There's 45 favor in the bank for SuperAfim to make mummies. And mummies, even though there's a bunch of Hearthstone here, mummies are really, really strong.
Oh, he's going to push in now anyway. Migdal under siege. Throwing Axeman do a lot of damage to this, so won't last very long. He can't take the fight before the age up comes through. We don't have a unit creeping into the economy for a big boom play. So there isn't going to be any try to sneak around, but the Son of Osiris in itself should be enough to scare him away. Like, the problem right now is Tunison, he's shy of what he needs for Flaming Weapons. Flaming Weapons would be the one way he could contest this. Instead, I think he's going to have to hunker down and try to age up. But easier said than done.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a really, really nice defensive gold mine on the back of his base. So he's got some time, and he's going to go into his raiding idea. This is something that he's done throughout this series really, really well. While trying to make something happen here, get onto the raids, distract your opponent, and try and get some value. But SuperAfim is not falling for it at the moment. He is going full steam ahead. Siege is on the way as well. That's going to take down these buildings incredibly fast as well.
Yeah, and that ripple damage from Son of Osiris is actually going to add up pretty quickly, so he could easily force him. But we do see the age up on the way. So, an opportunity at redemption coming from Tunison, and he has gone for Boulder.
Boulder is kind of important. Not for Ragnarok, not even for Fire Giants, but for Sons of Slipnir, funny enough. This is a pretty unique technology, very, very rarely researched. You need it to deal with archer balls because it makes your raiding cavalry so good against them. But maybe here, Tudis is just out of hope and he thinks, well, maybe I just need to make myself this Ragnarok and we just need to go for broke. So many axemen, it's going to be challenging.
It feels like he is at that point where like you just need a blob and a go. But yeah, you're right. The front line has been nicely layered. His choke point's making it hard as well. So Siege starting to break that base. I hope we got another temple behind this so we can at least get the Fire Giant now. He's going to need every hand on deck because it looks like this is getting out of hand for him. SuperAfim with a dive in, idling out the economy. That's about 20 workers not doing anything right now for him, so able to shove him all the way back. This now creates a divide between his primary and secondary settlements. So this is about to get a lot more ugly. If you don't contest the camels here, they will ride south.
Yeah, and then that's where the gold is. That's where the farms are as well. Yeah, there's lots of idle villages here. 76 villages that can get turned into a Ragnarok straight away, but
if they're alive.
There's also 204 favor, so almost a second flaming weapon.
There's going to be no Ragnarok because they're all going to be dead. Check this. Forced away from the settlement. Still about, what, 15 seconds away, so the camels start to thin the herd here. And potential recruits for the main army. He needs to save them. This feels like a Ragnarok play. The way he's shuffling his economy right now, he's trying to buy time. And there it is. Yep. He activates. No choice but to do it. Full military send. Do or die for Tunison.
Well, this is where hearts are broken and dreams are lost here for players versus this Ragnarok. We've yet to see it be successful in tournament. Can Tunison make this happen? He's got to find all the gold. He's got to put all the pressure on. He's got some resources in the bank to repopulate. You can always drop a ton of town centers. Flaming weapons in. The army of SuperAfim is going to get absolutely massacred here.
That's huge. That's huge. Son of Osiris gone. You don't have that anti-blob now. He's going to shovel forward. He needs to be fast on this one. A lot of military influence, but is it going to be enough to crack this nut? Migdal, barely alive. Flaming weapons will take it down. He has an opening on the north side, and that could ripple in the economy. In the meantime, he's going to dive towards the west. He's full on sending it. He has no choice in this. The military count is looking underwhelming right now for Afim. He doesn't have any god power potential here. His standing army, he needs a lot more axemen if he's going to hold this back.
I mean, you look at this and you go, what just happened to that army here? You see the production queue right now. 7 chariots queued up. He's got 3 camel riders queued up. He's got 3 different batches of axemen queued up. That's going to take forever for him to get anything to actually come out here. SuperAfim's got a gold mine. Just one gold mine left. All Tunison needs to do is migrate his army up to that top side and just push through yet again. He's got 60 favor in the bank. Couple of units queued up. Burning pitch on the way as well. Those throwing axemen are going to become siege weapons, KP.
I mean, at this point as well, you mentioned the goal, but it's also the food at home, right? Like, if you can't reach the goal quickly, you can shutter him on the food. So kind of pick your poison in this situation. He's trying to secure an extra vein. The army is marching north side. There is nothing left at home to defend. We have basically just infinitely increased Tunison's economy from 0 to 1. But that is not the goal here, folks. He's not looking for a 10 minutes down the line. It's a do or die.
And you can't, if Tunison micros this really well, the Axemen are just going to melt. You retreat those Ragnarok heroes back, the throw an Axemen, clean everything else up on the front line, and you just can't engage this. It's looking like he's going for it, but everything's going to get massacred here, KP.
The villagers, they can't get away. They're way too slow to make that retreat, so that's going to be extra economy lost here. The cast coming in from the heroes to the north side. He goes for a quick build, doesn't quite get it up in time to block them. But the wave continues to push. That military number barely going down. What was it, about 240 a minute and a half ago? So only losing about 20 pop here. SuperAfim, he does have a decent amount of population, but when you consider that 90 of it is workers, the standing army looks underwhelming.
And these buildings are going to absolutely disintegrate. As soon as Tunison decides to start attacking them with the throw and axemen, they're just gone. These things absolutely hit like a truck with that burning pitch. But first doing some great garrison micro here. Can he make it work? The heroes of Ragnarok are going to get cleaned up very quickly by those axemen. That's not going to be fast enough.
No, the mummy also the backside. I mean, maybe he can get some conversions, but he doesn't live long enough. The backstab comes in. The TC plus the Migdal to try and hold, but if you just micro away, focus them down one by one, you can fold this into a TC and a Migdal kill. Eco is still looking strong, but Afim is just floundering right now like a fish to try and get a standing army together. And trickling in troops like this doesn't help you.
No, you have to get the army back up to full population. You do see that Tunison's army is down to 120 right now. He can start building villages. He's got one town center, though, so it's going to be a long time for him to repopulate back up. The question right now is, how is trade looking? We can get the market opened up.
That's ambitious. From this position.
Not to trade, but to just trade resources. So you've got 85 villages gathering. You've got to trade something to get gold and get military out.
I mean, he's got so much wood, so he's going to start selling. Yeah, you can see him spamming across now. But the Migdal, you just saw, that was the power of the Axemen. Even when the numbers were this low, it's just so strong at this point. And the idle eco as well. What, about 20 more go out on the north side of the tree line, but they're idle right now. So the gap is closing in this game. Population is about neck and neck, but it's going to take SuperAfim about another 2 minutes of chill. And as you can see, Tunison, he doesn't have any time to chill. He needs to send it.
Yeah, I mean, you could also see something here. We were maybe about it earlier, but you know, there's still access, or right now there's access to another healing spring. His army is half HP right now. True. It might be worth it to use that healing spring just to get those guys back up on the next fight on the front here.
Pause that thought. Because now remember, Tunison, it took him an whole extra game last time to use the healing spring. So we're going to have a few moments of contemplation before we maybe go to it again. Because I'm looking at that flaming weapons, and I know I shouldn't, but I've still got 100 military. If I could just kill enough units.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a possibility for another. This is as tight as it gets, KP. Why are we getting cliffhanger at this moment?
Why are we being teased? All right, guys, one's in chat if you think Tunison takes that game. Two's in chat if you think SuperAfim takes that game. We are now a pick your adventure D&D stream. See, people lean twos, man. But it's deep down, like they lean two, boy, but at the same time, in a deep, dark part of them, deep inside, part that they don't tell their family about, they tell no one about. They want the Ragnarok to succeed. They need the Ragnarok to succeed. So they can go to Reddit and make a thread about how OP the all-in Ragnarok play is.
That's right. I mean, we haven't seen one Ragnarok yet. So when we see one be successful, that opens the floodgates of Ragnarok just completely owning everything, right? So you can't have Ragnarok being good in a game of Age of Mythology. It's not possible. It's not going to be healthy. No. Reddit thread, make it.
We just confirmed. Apologies. Limitations of recording. We got teased. SuperAfim did win. We're going to a fifth game. Ragnarok is not OP. It needs a buff.
So what happened in the end there? We haven't seen it, but I can tell you what happened.
He just got danced
all the rag heroes got removed because he didn't drop that second healing spring on the fight, and he's saving that second healing spring now for the next series he's going to play in, potentially against Grass, or he's just never going to be able to use it ever again as it gets down to this final game.
No. But he's gonna treat healing springs like you would most of those early god powers, right? Like you think of things like the Batestone, where it just gets stronger per age. Like that's his thought process. So like the same way, if he matures it until the next S-tier tournament, the healing springs is going to be like an infinite restoration. So just really,
it's like
really
he's gonna
smart
have
plays.
Wonder Age. He's gonna have Wonder Age in the first age. So
there you go.
It down
And he will save that for the series against Mister in the next tournament. That's the plan. We figured it out. Apologies, folks. It is what it is. I hate that saying, but reality check it. It's a new release. All I can say is on a developmental side, QA important, observing important. Hopefully that gets fixed in the future so we don't have that type of hiccup. But yes, the positive is we get a 5-game series. We go all the way through to an Alfheim for, I want to say this is like one of the most frequent appearing matchups at the moment. Gaia Kronos. I've seen so many of this in Genesis Retold so far. I want to say I've seen the 4, 5, maybe 6 times.
Really? I feel like I haven't seen this once. Just for my own personal.
We've been operating on the different days, man. I think we.
That's right. That's right.
We had you mentioned the creep tumor strategy. We had that last weekend, I believe it was, when we had it on Ghost Lake, and it was incredible to watch. It was Kronos. It was very memorable because Kronos, he tried to go for the Temple Rush, and his opponent pulled villages and destroyed it.
That's classic. A classic maneuver.
And then in typical, my plan is ruined strategy, Kronos tried to go 2TC and hide in the corner. So yeah, like we've had some really cool games there where Gaia ended up, funnily enough, being the aggressor in what is historically seen as a Kronos aggressive matchup.
Yes. Okay. Let me go through my own theory crafting on this. Because I have like you've seen it, so you can tell me how close or far off I am. Kronos has got Prometheus and Leto.
Yep.
Gaia has got Leto and Oceanus. If Gaia goes Oceanus, Kronos can go Prometheus and mass Prometheans, and then there's not any great counter for the Gaia player. Can't really use their favor. You want to use Carnivora, it's not going to do anything. There's a bunch of Prometheans to kill it. You can't really make heroes because then you're falling behind on military. It costs too many resources. You can make some, but you can't make enough to deal with the Prometheans. Mm-hmm. So then does that mean then we have to see Leto to come through for the Gaia player to make those automatons? Because automatons are going to counter the Prometheans.
This is the situation.
But then does that also mean if that's the case, then
where's my
you can't then go for Prometheans if you go Prometheus. So you have to go for Leto as well with Kronos.
So what you're saying is we're about to put the techno music on, and it's going to be a pump, grind, humping session of automatons in the center of the map.
I'm hoping so. This is the theory. I've been avoiding playing Atlantean since they've gotten buffed. They're
make me play it.
I've had enough of this. So this is my theory crafting. If I played tournament, I'd be thinking about this, but nope. These guys are gonna have to
I need this. I need the Robo Rebellion in the middle of the map. We need the open spawn of Alfheim as well, so you're encouraged to do it, right? And then to complete the look, our voices will just go robot in the middle of the cast, right? And then we'll just have like a recording of Elon Musk flash somewhere as it seems we've been hacked. It's the only way this can play out. It is an interesting conundrum, though. Like, you are right. Like, I think we talked earlier about this. Like, Leto is an option, but it's almost like it's just forgotten about. Apparently, we've had it twice in the tournament so far, which is, I'd say that's a pretty low percentage considering that's an age 2 choice, right? Like, and there's been a lot of Atlanteans. In fact, some of the players are prolific, exclusive Atlantean spammers.
That's true. Yeah. I'm gonna hold out. We've held out for the Cyclops. We've got the Cyclops today. I think it's time to get the robots. Robot spammage. It looks cool. You make a great thumbnail with it.
What's the most robot thing we can do? Do we just play the Gundam theme tunes? I'm not sure if I know that one off by heart. Do you know any good robot theme too? I can't think of any. You could do Power Rangers because they hop into giant robot
Power
suits. So
Rangers, yeah.
there you go. It kind of works.
I don't really have any other ideas. Okay. Let's just push it to the nth degree. I'm gonna go further down the rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, we have to go Age 3 because it's not going to end in Age 2 with that.
Yeah, we still got 2 minutes left. Let's say, for example, here I'm playing Gaia and I see the Kronos player go Leto. I have to pick Leto as well because I know I need that to deal with the Prometheans. Then the Kronos player goes Leto, and you go, oh, he's going for automatons because he needs the automatons to deal with my automatons. Okay, I'm not going to build automatons. I'm going to go Thea, and I'm going to be getting myself Stymphalian birds, which are going to be able to counter those automatons. And then what does the Kronos player do?
But then I go Hyperion and I chaos your birds.
That's
so
true,
that I don't have to build range units. Your range units just kill each other. Let's be totally real. If it goes to Age 3, they're both going to pick Rhea.
That's true. And then there's going to be 2 behemoths versus 1 behemoth, advantage Kronos.
No. And then there's going to be a single traitor choice that makes the difference, gives the edge to the automaton mass, and then lets one player win.
One thing's for certain. Something's going to happen in this series. These guys, they're both Fox. They both train with each other. We haven't actually talked about this. These guys have obviously played a lot of scrims together, and I think they're probably hitting 5 games in their scrims pretty often. Whether they've played this matchup or not, that's something that we've talked about it before, but there's so many matchups. There's just so many. You could definitely miss Gaia versus Kronos in your training.
I don't think they will after this tournament. It's coming up a bit too much. I think we had Matrius in the chat earlier saying that he struggled with it in his matchup while he was playing Gaia. So it's climbing.
Probably because he probably didn't go Leto. I think that's the problem.
There you go. That is the problem. He didn't go Leto. I remember that. None of them went Leto. They just don't believe. We've actually had it on this particular map where I can't remember the players, but it legit was Kronos went for the Promethean play and then rushed 2 TC. And Gaia just full sent it. Would not let him get away with it. But it's time to find out who's going to be getting away with the win and who is going to leave with the loss. 5-game series going all the way. Essentially, we are in a best-of-1 barn burner to decide who proceeds through to the next round here in Genesis Retold. In the blue, playing as Gaia, we have got Fox's SuperAfim.
And his teammate in the red, opposite side of the map, playing as Kronos. His name is Tunison. Win this one, you go on. Lose this one, you're out. Pressure couldn't get any higher, KP. Alfheim, we've got the closed variant.
Look at the mirrored placement of the oracles. It is exactly the same on both sides, right? You would mention that they scrim with each other. They're pretty much kind of blobbing out to see the exact same things, exact same locations. So, we talked about the idea of mirroring Age. I mean, this is a good start to the idea of things being mirrored. Maybe it can happen.
Well, one thing's for certain: those guys are just having a good powwow at the start of the game. It's like they haven't declared war just yet. They're still in the archaic phase. They don't know what's going on.
Wait, hear me out. We've been talking our pre-game was pretty much we want Leto. We want Leto more than a Jared Leto fan wants him to be in another a Batman movie. But the thing here is if you do play Leto on both sides, Tunison can get an overwhelming edge because he can forward temple drop, get his automatons out, and then make yours disappear, which would allow him to blob an automaton advantage.
That's true, but let me tell you what's actually happening, which is changing everything. There's a current build order that's coming out that I want to already say is average at best. There is an advantage to it, but this is a hero citizen opening here for Gaia. I did the math on this. I've played this build order before. Actually, Viper did this one a long time ago. So anyone out there trying to claim this one, the Viper, he did this before all of you guys did it. So the problem with this is that the cost that you spend on the hero citizen versus the bonus you get from the resources that come in takes about 10 minutes to pay off each citizen.
Got it.
That's 10
but
minutes. That's kind of a long time.
hear me out.
Yes, but the advantage, you tell me the advantage. Go.
I'm playing Gaia, so I can afford a game to go over 10 more minutes.
That's true. That's true.
You were, I know you were going for some more elegant. It's good against myth rushes, right? So, like, if you're going to play Prometheans, Shiv's out, I don't care.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we're not seeing Leto. So this, I mean, while the Promethean are not going to get any value here, Tunison probably doesn't need to care about that.
No.
In the early game. He
Because
just
his opponent
needs
went
to mass...
Oceanus. So...
Exactly. He can just mass up Prometheans. Just make 5 oracles more to get up to 8 oracles. Maybe not 8. Maybe we'll go 6 oracles. Let's just call it a nice even number. Nice. Healthy gets 3 of them, cost 300 resources. Your opponent's invested all into those hero citizens, so you don't need to care about the investment into the oracles. It's going to be in an equal spot, happy days, or even a better spot, advantageous spot earlier on. And then you just go spammage on Prometheans. Second gold mine comes in. Your opponent has to use hero citizens in the army to actually kill off your Prometheans, and you just lull at him while you kill him with Mamilla and a whole bunch of Prometheans.
Or we get the Promethean Terma, which has been a pattern recently for the Kronos picks. I actually think last time we saw the matchup on this map, it turned into that. Difference being that was a 2 TC attempt afterwards by Kronos, and actually Terma were coming from the Gaia. So kind of flip the roles compared to last time I saw it. I was casting this on the broadcast. Now, from this position, we also have to kind of fear the promotions. It's a really good and easy way of dealing with the Carnivora.
Yeah.
I just realized, if the Carnivora eats Prometheans, like he's eating clay, that sounds like an insult. Eat clay.
It does.
All right, there we go. We're going to use that for now.
I don't think the
No,
Carnivora can eat.
Can they eat the small ones? I don't think they can eat any. Maybe
No,
the small ones?
they don't have that diet. Only flesh.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, such fussy eaters. No wonder you don't see many of them in the games. So we have at least got the Carnivoras as an option. Looking at the map spawn as well, the cool thing you're seeing him do here, creating choke points with the trees, right, and with the buildings. So like against Terma, they're going to now have to funnel into these awkward little choke points. That means even when you're trying to move, the arrow fire from the TC will still hit you.
Yeah, I mean, like SuperAfim going for the turtle. He knows that economically speaking, advantageously in terms of just god bonuses, all of his bonuses push him to having an advantage later in the game. But this game is not going to go later in the game because Tunison is wanting to put all the pressure on. He has got the Terma out. He's got so many military units out here, but he has to kill off units all over the place to make something happen. It's a beautiful back gold mine on the map for SuperAfim to try and lengthen this game. But at some point, he is going to need to be leaving his base. It's not going to be that long. And we also see that alluvial clay tech coming through as those Prometheans will now die, and 3 instead of 2 will be left remaining.
Even more effective because your opponent went for the Oceanus, so you want to have that lob, so the debuffs just do not matter from the air support. So kind of a tricky situation here. Like it's a conundrum that I'm not seeing a grand resolution for. That deconstruct really slowed down the counter Terma to the Terma. It almost feels like Afim has to kind of gather efficiently, just go for the tech play. Because the good news is if you go for the tech play, you get your hands on the chaos. If your opponent tries to dive you, you can actually. Oh crap! No, you don't have chaos. Okay, there is. This is hard, man. Like I usually look at mass Terma, I'm like chaos good, right? Like Uranus has an out because of that. You do not have an easy out here as Gaia.
The out is that you get channels, which makes your Terma faster, and then you get the advantage moving in and hidden running, right? That's it's not a good advantage. It's not a bad advantage. It's not a huge advantage, but yeah, that's the only way you can really make it work. Catapulties, Terma, etc. But again, that Promethean frontline is so absurdly good, and I'll tell you, if anyone is going to be able to utilize this effectively, Tunison is. He might not be a Kronos main, but he's an Uranus main, and he knows how to do this with Uranus, and doing it with Kronos, not that much different.
No. And also, you can just use them to see through this temporary wall, right? And what's the counter? Oh, I see mass Prometheans, I walk over repair. Yeah, good luck with this many Terma waiting for you. You're going to eventually be shoved off this gold, and we already mentioned that other reserve gold. not going to be accessible. There is an Oracle back there waiting to see you make that move.
Yeah, there's nowhere for him to go. In a matchup where your opponent has got oracles and you're stuck in your base, he's going to see the entirety of the map. It's the same thing when you play against Egyptian, with Obelisk everywhere, Loki with the eyes in the forest. You have to be out on the map clearing your opponent's stuff if you want to do anything sneaky. And he's already getting pushed off the home gold line. The army numbers for Tunison, he's currently in front by 40 population, KP.
And he's going to maintain that. Carnivora gets committed behind this. He needs to get some heroes over here to deal with it, but hasn't been using the promotion. So that is at least going to create a little bit of a stopgap here from reinforcements coming in, as that Carnivora is on a very healthy diet of things that would usually be sent to a glue factory. Pony's going down. Dive continues in. The villagers are being forced to front line here, though, so it's equaling into economy losses. Shiv's out as he has to have all bodies on board to try and hold this. The military numbers are still holding for Tunison, though.
He may have got a little bit too ham here. He's done a lot of economic damage in terms of idle units, but he's still only 2 population in front right now in terms of civilian units.
Oh, Carnivora. Well,
he's
I'm just going to say it. That thing needs to stop being fussy. Eat clay, okay? Because that was the defense strategy that has now unraveled. But however, Afim is halfway towards having Carnivore again, right? And I think this choke point could be a saving grace. The question is whether the timing is going to line up.
Well, I mean, the other thing that's going on right now, if you notice in the terms of resources, SuperAfim's got so much food in the bank, and he's literally just not able to use it. He's got 4 Murmillos queued up in the barracks as well. So add 150 food to his current total. He's got so many resources in the bank, and he's not able to spend them. Compare that over to Tunison. I mean, sure, he's got a whole bunch of gold in the bank. But he can spend that onto a whole bunch of oracles now if he wants to. SuperAfim's got nothing he can do.
No. Tough part here for Tunison, though, is if Carnivores do keep getting spammed out, if you're able to get some Myth units in there, he's using everything into the Promethean, so he doesn't have the ability to promote freely. That is a little bit of a struggle. That's why the Carnivore looked good for a moment. But step 1 to this strategy, holding for blue, he needs to fin the Clay Boys. Like you mentioned earlier, they are the backbone of the strategy. The Terma are almost just a distraction. Yes, they are going to do damage if left uncounted, but the effort required to counter them means the Prometheans are running rampant.
Yeah, he's got 1 hero and it's just been taken. 1 hero is left and it gets taken down. There's no answer for this going through Oceanus, and we were talking about it before, but maybe there was something here that SuperAfim could do, but he's now pushed off his home gold mine. He's back into a position where he's still down by 40 population. More Prometheans are coming in. The one thing that I'm not seeing here from Tunison, which not necessarily a mistake, but just a different option, would be, let's just build some oracles. Like, he's got the resources to do so.
I mean, and that would fix the issue of the hero units we talked about, right? Which could actually just buff your ability to kill, even if you're not going into Carnivora. Also, could have allowed you to deconstruct 1 or 2 of these buildings and the choke points to get easier access.
Yes.
So, would have had some value there. We did start to see a few catapults coming out, but not enough to really threaten this. Prometheans once again with the dive. Promos coming through. Carnivore on the backside, once again on that healthy horse diet, but not going to be good enough. Gets taken down. Took about, what, 2 Tama with it? That's not going to turn the battle in favor of him. And we are at the verge of his economy being fully bare, beaten, and struck down. And with this many Terma, I think we've reached the conclusion point. There's no way he can hold this back anymore.
There's just too many units. SuperAfim has got no military. He's got 10 population of military against 77. Are you kidding me? SuperAfim taps out. Tunison gets the dub, KP. That was a clinic in how to play this strategy from the Chronos side.
I mean, he sent his bro to the clinic, right? Like, he's going to need some Medicare after that. That was a beat down to finish off what was a very tight back and forth series. Just clean execution by Kronos and showing its potency in this particular matchup. You know, we were fear crafting through. I was looking for the out. We mentioned the age-free options. They don't really provide an immediate solution for Gaia. I think the issue in this matchup is if Kronos goes all in and plays very aggressive, Gaia is, to a certain degree, at the mercy of either A, picking Leto, which you don't want to do, or B, having a really solid spawn with options. And that gold placement, in theory, a good option, but I think the key to success there for Tunison was that temple placement. It set up everything that followed.
Well, it's like, what is the slow unit to get to your opponent's base? Promethean. If you have a forward temple, they're no longer slow. They're in your opponent's base the moment they get trained. Terma, no worries. You can send them over. You can also time shift later if you really want, but you can have them wander over and they'll join the fight pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, there was just no. I think that SuperAfim went into this matchup going, what am I scared of? I'm scared of 2 Promethean walking into my base at 3 minutes, 30 seconds into the game. And he didn't think past that moment. Okay, it's like, well, yeah, there's 2 Prometheans there, but what about the next Prometheans? Oceanus is really, really good in this matchup, that matchup, this matchup. But every single matchup, I don't think so. And that's why Tunison finds the victory, and in a dominating fashion in that last game. But honestly, 2-3 here, 3-2. Very, very close series here from the Fox brothers.